Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RLAfterShock, the longest-running independent podcast for everything that is Rocket League esports in the European scene. Back after a week break because we're busy boys, but back nonetheless to bring you all the action from the European scene, the RLCS and RLRS, and beyond. I'm the Eternal J. Joining me is Digital Bacon after, I think Kraft has stepped in for last episode, if I recall correctly.
Because I was ill last week.
Yeah, you were ill as fuck after your little trip to Belgium, weren't you?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Was it after Belgium? Or was last week?
Last week we skipped the show because we were at EGX. The week before was the last episode where Crafter stepped in because you were ill because of your trip to Belgium.
Yep, that was it.
There you go. See?
Yeah. I picked up something. It's like the worst thing for us as like commentators is when you're in like the green room, you know, like the talent section, and then you just see one like lonesome packet. You don't know whose it is, but it's like cough medicine, and you're suddenly there like, some fucker's gonna give me the land flu, and yeah, that's what happened. It always happens. Like
it seems to be just sort of like a common sort of thing at LAN in general, you know. Like, have you ever been to Insomnia, for example? Like, the fucking BYOC aspect of that shit is just like you're walking around like hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's just like, oh god, here we go. Like,
the statistics are you'll get ill. Like, I can remember
statistically, you're going to get very fucking ill. In short,
like
but,
Twitter, I want to say like 2 weeks ago, I saw Damascus put out things like, I have survived 7 months. So I was like, dude, like your immune system is boss to be able to last 7 months of doing events and like that. Yeah, amazing.
Mate, how do you think the people at the top of CS feel? Like fucking country to country, sitting inside Sweatbox playing continent to continent, doing event after event, shaking hands with all the fans, hundreds of people a weekend.
Literally being anti-vax doesn't matter because they're getting so much getting thrown at them anyway, you know?
MMR down the fucking drain for you. Right, let's talk about some Rocket League. Coming up in today's show, of course, it is the 2-week catch-up session, so we're going to be going through most of the results from the RLCS and the RLRS, plus the news, most of it being very, very old, but we still want to share our thoughts on it, so we'll do just that. Plus, we have plenty of mailbag to get through from our Discord fans here live on the first episode. Fucking hell, going back in time there, it almost feels like the first episode. It was around this time last year that we started the show. No, into the 49th episode of RLAfterShock. And before we begin, I just want to say a big shout out to a couple of birthday boys. Banana Man, my good boy Leo, right now he's streaming over on his Twitch channel, so when we're done here, we're probably going to host him so he can get all the glory, assuming he's still going. But also, as well as that, Cloud Fuel, big shout out to the man. He's contributed so much to Rocket League esports, and there's no way we can do a show on his birthday without saying thank you, Cloud Fuel, and happy birthday. Right, let's get into the news, and we'll start with a bit of a tease, a bit of a weird one. Obviously, a couple of days ago, Rocket League announced, or Psyonix announced, the Rocket League Winter Roadmap. Let me do that again. Roadmap for 2019. And oh my god, fucking hell! This is a this is a doozy, isn't it? It's probably the shortest. Can we call this a roadmap? Do we think it's no? We can't.
So,
to be honest,
what it is your general like rewards announcement. That's fair enough. That should just be its own little tweet anyway, with the GIF and all of that. The announcement that we're losing, or not losing, sorry. The base version of the game now is going to include the first 3 DLCs, which I think is fantastic. Should have happened probably a while ago, but it don't matter. I can already imagine there might be a little bit of hate, but at least they're saying if you bought one of those DLCs after October 1st, you'll be able to get a refund. Good guy. Like, that's a fairly solid like thing to do, because before that, it don't matter. You've had your fun. Inventory archiving just seems like a standard thing. The winter event coming up, who would have guessed? And then RLCS and CRL tickets. That's not a roadmap. That's advertising.
No. That's advertising. Basically, you are promoting DLC. You are announcing that people will be getting DLC, and you're announcing CRL and RLCS tickets plus the winter event. I mean, do you know what? In credit to Psyonix, whenever they have announced a roadmap, they've never fucking stuck to it. So, you know, the title of this show probably indicates exactly what we think about this. You can't break any promises if you don't fucking make any. You know, they haven't announced anything what they're going to do with the esports side of things, because we still have 0 updates on how that Epic buyout is going to play out. We still have no updates in terms of the next season of RLCS. Obviously, there was that rulebook change which said that now 10 teams are going to move up. We haven't heard anything about that, anything in regards to esports items. So roadmap is stretching the term of what this announcement blog thing is actually, to be honest. Like, come the fuck on, guys. This is not a roadmap.
Yeah, if this is your roadmap, you'll probably get lost along the way. Essentially, you're like, okay, how do I get from the East Coast to the West Coast of America? You go through mountains.
Go west.
Yeah, it's like essentially, let's see how we get there then. Go. It's not really much for us to work on. And again, like a lot of the roadmaps in the past, like our big grievances are broken promises, like, party systems, the tournaments update and all of that, and they never come through. So at least, like we say, the promises aren't going to get broken with this one, which is a weird thing to feel at. It's melancholy at the moment, Jay.
I mean, again, it's so typical Psyonix to do something like this, isn't it? Oh, we've got a winter roadmap, and then just like give us no fucking communication about anything. It's so Psyonix to do something stupid like this, and that's exactly what they've done. So I don't even know why anyone's surprised. I just find serious grievances with calling it a fucking roadmap when that is not what it is. It's not a roadmap. It's just advertising for some of the DLC, plus some of the new features, plus of course, as I mentioned, Frosty Fest and the RLCS tickets, which I don't think they've sold out just yet, but I definitely know that the ground levels have certainly sold. So if you haven't got your tickets for that yet, you want to go, then certainly go get them.
Yes.
I know me and Bacon are going to be going, so if you want to meet us, then that'll even be great. I try to get some
thing booked now, ain't we?
Yeah, I still need to pay Tractor for the Airbnb. So I'm gonna once I get that done, then we're home free. Then we're actually going to be going to the Madrid land. So yes, all that plus the CRL tickets. If you care enough, we don't. So there you go. Have fun with that. For all you North Americans who may feel like you've been screwed by the language thing from last episode. But again, we've been over that before. So let's move on and talk about some rosters, because there have been surprisingly a lot of roster things going on at the moment, Bacon. Mostly organizations picking up teams. So I guess it's not too out of the ordinary, especially for the RLRS level, where AS Monaco decided they're going to pick up the boys from Fadeaway. Now, Fadeaway did sort of tease this, back in the day, and we sort of theorized that maybe it might have been somewhere from Malta. So we thought it might be E United, who certainly have shown interest. That was the rumor that was going around as well. But actually, that shot was from Monaco, because it's AS Monaco, the team that's going to be picking them up. So, credit to the Monaco lads, actually. They've sponsored an event with me casting it a while back, and I love those guys. They treat us really, really well. It seems like they've got a vested interest in esports. So I think this is a really, really good home for Tigray Extra and iignite.
Yeah, naturally, because, of course, a lot of football clubs looking to get into esports. You don't want to go for your shooters. We've seen clubs get involved with League or Dota, but realistically, if you're a football club, why are you not sponsoring either FIFA players or Rocket League players? Here, Rocket League and AS Monaco have been very solid within the Rocket League community, having players for a long, long time. And here, this is by far the strongest team they've had, and this is, for me, the full commitment into Rocket League, which is a fantastic roster. Like, they're looking super strong, naturally, of course, and we'll just have to see if, like, the payoff works, because for me, this sort of move of AS Monaco picking up an RLRS team that could make it through to RLCS might encourage other football teams to do very similar feats, Jay, which, of course, I'm all behind. I want that to happen. I want RLRS teams to have orgs, have teams to actually rep them.
Yeah, obviously, because now we're moving out of the realm of the RLCS team leading organizations, and now it's just down to that lower level. So we're making progress in some areas, I want to say. Not all of them, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on during the show. Another roster move that was semi-prolific, was the Copenhagen Flames boys picking up this new Danish roster of Waffle, Maestro, and Pondex. Okay. Where to begin? Where to begin with this? I love Copenhagen Flames, right? And I know Faz listens to the show. I know that the guys love. And obviously, I've worked with them during the Renegade Cup monthly that they ran. It was fucking brilliant. They had loads of great ideas. It was every day we'd get in. It'd be really excited. They'd really be hyped to work on everything. And then by the end of it, we'd come up with new ideas for the next stream. It was a really fucking cool sort of working environment. But the policy of this show is criticize everybody, even ourselves. If we fuck up, then we're going to criticize each other for it. So I have to say, what was the fucking point in this? Like, there's no tournaments for EU during this time of the year, during this point in the season, and it's like you picked this team up after the RLCS had begun. You picked this team up after the play-ins, whatever. If you got these three guys together and put them in to go to try and make a run for the RLRS during the play-ins, I can understand why you would do such a thing. That's fair play, right? I understand that. But this just feels like very lost investment from a business side of things, you know? Like, again, there's not much going on except for Rising Stars, which I don't think Copenhagen Flames have a presence in because that tournament's too far gone at this point. It's too deep into it.
Yep.
So I don't see what they're trying to accomplish with this other than a ridiculously long-term goal, you know?
Yeah, unless, like you say, it's a long-term goal, start building them now and get them in place. Or tinfoil hat time, you know, there is something in the works going on which has not hit our ears at all, Jay, you know. But for me,
I mean, if there was, I think we'd fucking know about it by now.
Yeah, because we generally do get something passed through. Or if not, it might come out in the next few weeks. We'll follow, keep updated in case on that, of course. But looking at this, like when you think about just Denmark alone as a country, like for me, Maestro's outdated. Like, he has not looked good since, dropping from RLCS. Pondex, I'm fine with. Waffle, I don't know. Because you've got to think, there's other players such as Saxon, Mummy Snow, Friss, Al Dente now. Like, maybe, I don't know what's going on with Nordvin after their drop. Because that Nordvin seems invested, but you had Sebadam playing over with Sector 1 over in Belgium recently, and he's been like jotting about with different teams. So from all accounts,
just to say off the bat right now, I do know that Nordvin are basically done for the year. Like, you know, this was their last hurrah to get into the RLRS because their contracts are set to run up at the end of the year. So that team's going away. I'm just going to tell you that right now for free. So yeah, like there was a number of things that they could have done with this one, but like again, it makes no sense to me. Like Waffle is very, you know, he's been out of the scene for a long time. You know, like, I haven't seen him around doing anything in a high level, you know, sort of player competition. I've seen him doing a couple of smaller events and smaller tournaments and shit, but he has never done anything really significant in the past couple of years. So Maestro, as you mentioned as well, he's washed. Pondex is really the only good element of this roster that I can see doing something, and maybe they're trying to build around him. Maybe they're trying to see if they can use him as some sort of like way in.
Like I said, Maestro's just overhyped and washed by now. And like for me, Waffle is one where like his claim to fame is essentially playing for Envy in Gfinity when that was a B team. That was a reserve team. So it's not really a claim to fame. For me, this just seems to be maybe Copenhagen Flames making a big name push. And I would probably lean more into that tinfoil hat sort of area, Jay, purely because this is well early before, you know, RLRS qualifications in like February of next year. To me, there seems like there might be something coming up before Christmas, or at least something small going on within Danish region or the Nordic region, where they could be putting it there, and it's just more of like a by-match basis instead of like a solid monthly contract. But who knows? I personally haven't reached out to the guys on this one actually because I haven't had time. Might do later on in the week.
Yeah, I will. I think I might go ahead and hit people up and ask what that's going on about that. But I don't know. Again, we've not heard anything behind the scenes. We've been busy, but even then, we usually keep up with shit like this, and it's very unusual for us to happen. Anyways, let's move on and talk about the next bit of news, a positive one to a certain extent. Yeah. This is a little news piece from Esports Insider talking about the new partnership between ELEAGUE, RLCS, and CDW. CDW are sort of like a computer logistics sort of organizer, and they set people up with and they set people up with a lot of, like anything from office computers to gaming computers, depending on what your business is. They partnered with Psyonix, obviously, to promote themselves on the RLCS. You've obviously seen the advertisements if you've been watching the RLCS from those guys. And a part of this deal, and the reason why I wanted to highlight this, a part of this deal, if you read a little bit down the page, is this little extract from here. CDW will equip the ELEAGUE studio and arena with PCs and accessories from Lenovo, acting as the official partner of both ELEAGUE and RLCS. What this says to me is that when you've got another ELEAGUE event in the pipeline here, Bacon, assuming if they're setting up,
it's coming up pretty soon.
Like, you know, if we're going by the regular timeline of how ELEAGUE have run their events, with the exception of last year where we didn't have an ELEAGUE event, I don't believe. No, wait, we did have an ELEAGUE event, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. That was
sorry, I'm being an idiot.
We did girls taking it in everyone like, oh,
Yeah, so I don't know
TSM really
why.
should have got them signed earlier so that it could
Yeah,
win
I
as
don't know why.
TSM.
I think I'm thinking of the WSOE event that didn't happen this summer because we were obviously promised a WSOE event and that didn't actually come down. Which we have got more information on that now that I remember it. I completely forgot about that particular story.
It's not adding in, but we'll just say now it was like a tweet put out saying, like if you like Rocket League, retweet if you want another WSOE event, which is just basic Twitter slang for we're running another event.
Yeah, pretty
Let's
much.
get some love. Like,
pretty much that is what we're getting at the moment from WSOE. That sounds like roughly what we're understanding with. But yeah, no, again, if they're prepping the ELEAGUE studio, which has been out of commission for a while now, I don't think they haven't used it for the past like 4 months. They've been running this Magic the Gathering tournament, but that's all been like, basic online stuff, sort of like what we do for Rival Esports or the boys over at Rewind. If we were running a tournament from that, that's what ELEAGUE have been doing, and it's very confusing that they haven't run a big budget event, in any sort of big budget esport. Not even Counter-Strike. They've completely vacated the Counter-Strike scene, which is very curious for me, considering how much love ELEAGUE got from the CSGO boys. Like, I don't even remember a single bad CSGO tournament they run, from the majors to ELEAGUE Premier
to the point,
Season
Machine
1
got
tournament.
hired as the ELEAGUE host, and then was around, I want to say, for, is it like 2 events? 3 if you can count like the Rocket League stuff last season, and then sort of like nothing. It was incredibly odd.
It's a bit weird, but anyway, this little thing, I don't know much about CDW. I understand that they're probably a pretty unprofessional sort of bunch, from my understanding. It looks like they've got a decent thing going on. I'm hoping that it does mean another interesting little time, another interesting development, because we have seen a lot more sponsorship get picked up for the RLCS, and that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see more partners, more sponsors to help try and boost the revenue coming in from the from the rest of the the endemic and non-endemic sponsors. So I think, again, it's a very positive move and something that I'm really looking forward to. Right.
And of course, there's the possibility for more events. A company like this could set up more, I wouldn't say pop up and play studios around the country. We saw the Universal Open, how big that was for repping the whole of America. And you got to think a lot of America bases on, we're going to go on a little road tour, find regional teams, and then clash them together. I think for Rocket League, especially, that sort of thing would be epic. And CDW, which this is the area, being able to take the tech between places, could potentially be a good idea down the line. I can see glimmers of that. Again, tinfoil hat time, but Rocket League's from that sort of like weird marketing perspective, isn't it? They don't see things as normal esports.
Yeah, something along those lines. Anyway, let's move on and talk about another piece of good news. Well, good is debatable, but we're going to call it good news for the game because obviously Rocket League has needed this for a while, but the official free-to-play PC version of Rocket League has been released in China.
That is it.
Let's not, mate. Let's not go down that road. So yes, the Chinese version that has been waiting on approval for the past like year and a half or so from the Chinese board has been ready to go since the summer. It just got released a couple of weeks ago. We've seen people doing like a bunch of different pieces of content around it. We've seen videos from within the game. Obviously, there's this article from the Rocketeers that officially announced it. Obviously, Tagmata put this out, put the actual proper announcement on Twitter for the Western audience to see, and the Billy link has like a nice little video with a sick little piece of artwork, by the way. I think you can see that on stream. That is amazing. That is like levels of, okay, I want this, like, look, I want that screen grab and I want it framed up here somewhere. Like, I'll be happy to replace my posters back there and the Rocket League one over there because, like, fuck me, that looks amazing. It looks legit. It looks so fucking awesome. But yes, this is something that we've been saying is going to happen for a while. We're saying it's something that's going to be needed for the sake of the game to thrive in a certain world of esports. Sort of. Again, I got a bit more to talk about that in a later segment. But yes, this is the Chinese version finally getting released, and there you go. Get ready to bow to the Chinese overlords of esports, mate.
And some really weird little additions to the game as well, Jay. For me, like the big standout feature was the predictive trajectory line that the ball has. If you saw that,
that's a good point, actually.
I think is one of those things of you can disable it if you want, and I only saw because there's no ranked in the game just yet, as of like when I looked a couple of days ago. But essentially, I'd imagine that's available in casual, but in ranked it's disabled. But for me, for up and coming Rocket League players anyway, that is a massive tool because of course, like even up to high levels of Rocket League, bounces off like the curvature on the walls are just they're so hard to read. Whereas if you got that line, which is like a weird squiggly little like fluorescent thing, it makes it so much easier, and like it's a lot better as well for trying to learn to aerial. So they've definitely thought about how to bring this to a market that doesn't have like more mechanical games like this, you know, because Rocket League is incredibly westernized. So hopefully this like picks up the Chinese region like really quickly, because that is one area I do want to see, like again, enter Rocket League, Chinese overlords, all of that sort of thing, just because it's more inroads for marketing and more tournaments and more revenue for the game in its esports environment.
Well, even then, you know, some of the features that you talked about, like the predictive thing, and of course the new arena, which if you haven't seen, go to that Bilibili link and take a look at that trailer because it is fucking lit, mate. Right? It looks incredible, and these are things that I'd like to see brought over to the Western game as well, because like, obviously, you know, you can see that Tencent
did say was coming. That arena was coming.
Yeah,
but
they
it just
said
was
that the arena was coming
sometime.
Yeah, they didn't give a specific time frame because of LOL Psyonix. But, you know, like, I'd love to see that brought to the game because it looks really cool. And obviously that whole, like, predictive positioning thing that you talked about would also be a great little learning tool for people who are getting started with the game. Like, for me, example, like, you know, I could talk for ages about mechanical, about professional Rocket League, but when it comes to core mechanics, I'm shit. I suck at it, you know, and it would be great to have some sort of, like, learning tool. This is no secret, right? I haven't been, like, you know, like denying it at all. I've often said that you should never get me in a game with pros because I'll get smashed, and you'll see very clearly how terrible I am with a controller, essentially. You know, I'm a mouse and keyboard kind of guy. I'm an FPS dude. So, you know, the idea of me using the idea of me getting to grips with Rocket League from a mechanical perspective is just so incomprehensible to me. So if I wanted to learn more about the game, if I wanted to pick it up and start playing ranked, that'd be a great opportunity, a great thing that you could do. But again, it's something like... It's something that I'd like to see brought over from the from the OG or from the Chinese version of the game to the Western version of the game.
Yeah, and like just literally reiterate that. It's just, again, it is so different, and the Chinese region's always just mouse and keyboard. They don't have consoles. I think there's like Tencent and Nintendo did some deal to get Switches out in China, and we're not even talking reaching 1 million Switches sold in China yet, you know, the success it's had. So it's just a region that is not that way inclined. Everyone's got PCs, they're cheap to buy up and actually make, and then you just use it. Essentially, it's why stuff like League of Legends you can run off a CPU. You don't need a GPU for it.
I mean,
it's just how the region,
but, you know, you don't need a powerful GPU.
No, you don't. Like 720p.
Yeah, but that's 720p though, mate. Come on.
It's the same with CS. You know, a lot of players still play that way.
Right? You can't use an integrated GPU for it, right? That's not possible. You can't fucking do that. That's very, very difficult.
You really can.
No, you can't. Not with not modern day CS, mate. Trust me, I've already checked it out. You know, unless you really want to turn it down to ridiculous levels.
I've run it off my £200 laptop, doing just 60 FPS at 720 at the lowest settings. It
That's
works.
the problem. It's 720, right? You're scaling back by a ridiculous amount. I digress. Yeah. Let's move on and talk about something else, which kind of has me on the fence a little bit, actually. This was an announcement from Lottie Van-Prag. For those of you who don't know, Praggy, she's an English desk host that does a lot of different events. She's worked in Halo, she's worked in CS, she worked with Gfinity as well. She was the interviewer for, I believe, the CS Elite Series and later on the FIFA Elite Series. So she's got a little bit of you know, experience under her belt, and obviously she was brought in to host the Rocket League rival series, essentially. So they brought in some EU talent bacon. Shock and fucking awe at the whole situation with that. I mean, I want to start with you, obviously, your initial thoughts on this one, because again, I'm a little bit torn by it, and I'll explain why in a moment.
So for me, Lottie's a fantastic host. Don't get me wrong, she doesn't know a massive amount of Rocket League. That's pretty evident. But as a host, it's not too bad. For me, it just seems like my conclusion to this is that they've got no problem with getting in EU talent. It's just more about stuff like visas and such. Because she was out there already doing, I think it was Halo. for that, or something with COD. I can't remember off the top of my head. So it just seems more like she was there and available for it. So let's do it. And probably a lot of diversity to that, because of course Rocket League seems to be very male dominated in the esports space anyway.
I mean, that's esports in general, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's the first female, like, say, commentator outside of, I would argue, Karma, coming on into it. So yeah, Gillyweed actually. Yep. Sorry, forgetting about that. But Gillyweed's now moved on into like behind the scenes, actual part of the production team for that. But you can always understand the moves to bring this on in, and I think Lottie's a fantastic pick for it. Like, everything makes sense about that.
See, I'm looking at this from two perspectives, because I am happy that we have some more EA representation on the Rivals series, but it is also the Rivals series and not the Championship series, right? And that's the main thing. I'm happy that Praggy's getting an opportunity to bring some EU representation to the product, but then I also think about the rest of us in EU, and it's like, why not support the guys who have been working their asses off for months and months? And I'm not saying me and Bacon, again, for recency bias.
Shogun, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Shogun in particular is the reason why. Like, when this announcement went out, I was like, what happened to Shogun? Why is he still not on the Championship series? Because we were hearing stuff behind the scenes that it was going to get brought back for this season. And here's the thing, right?
Would have been back for last season, from what I was told.
Here's the thing with the whole Shogun thing, right? I understand that visas are difficult to get, but you need company support from the people who are hiring you, okay? And there is such an easy argument to be made to say, hey, we need this guy because he's an integral part of our product. Because fucking, Psyonix have monetized the hell out of the This Is Rocket League line left, right, and center. And if you can't have the commentator on the broadcast that made the This Is Rocket League line, then what kind of value does that bring to the marketing element of the whole thing, right? That's such an easy argument to make. I think you could swing that pretty well for a visa whole thing. And if you think the Psyonix don't have the power to do that, then guys, you're very naive, okay? They're not an indie developer anymore. They are very rich. They made a lot of money from Rocket League over the course of its 4-year lifespan, right? Like, the fact that they haven't even bothered to try and get someone like Shogun onto the broadcast, the fact they even haven't bothered with anything in the EU scene, again, it is so typical Psyonix to be able to do all these things. And I mean, even then, is he even going to be brought in something like for the fucking Madrid LAN? Like, that's not even something I thought about, actually. Like, is he going to be brought on as the commentator for the English stream? That'd be so easy to do because it's in the fucking EU. Like, that's such a simple thing to throw out there. And it's like, is that even going to be a thing? Like, if Shogun's not part of that talent team, then it really goes to show me that they don't care about him. They don't care about his contributions to the scene.
Yeah, and it's all part of, like, this whole hookup of, I don't understand why it's this way gone, Jay, because Riot coming on in, Epic, not Riot. Coming on in.
Bacon, get your business in order.
Off the top of my head. Right, fuck off. Coming on in to buy out Psyonix essentially and adopt them, bring them on in as an internal studio, sort of just means for me that they look for Rocket League in the long sense. It's not just buying out an IP, not the developers because of what they can make. It'd be purely, largely for the game, because that's just how it is when you look at companies such as Ubisoft and EA and how they operate themselves, So coming into this, there's got to be logic behind, look, we're going to be expanding Rocket League in all areas, whether it be the casual game or as well as the esport, because Riot have been very interested in the esport space. It's just not gone incredible for them. Fortnite, Epic. What's on my head? Dude, it's late. Been a busy day. But yeah, Epic is just like, with Fortnite, it's been not the results they were looking for. They've got great numbers, big bolstering around them with Fortnite, but it's not been as big as what they wanted. And Rocket League seems to be a very much safe bet for them to try and evolve,
I still don't understand how that explains the reason why we haven't seen someone like Shogun enter the scene yet.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm very fucking confused by it. Because every sort of point should see Shogun coming on in, bigger tournaments, everything expanded, and it hasn't, which is very confusing for me.
it feels like Rocket League has certainly regressed in that department, in terms of the casting department. There's a whole conversation we could have about the state of casting in the RLCS. We won't have that on this particular episode because obviously we've got a lot of news and a lot of shit we have to catch up on. So we'll have to leave that for another time. I will note that down in our special little document we have now of future talking points so we don't forget them later on down the road. But yes, I mean, in terms of the actual announcement itself, I don't think you could have picked up a better professional. So congratulations to Praggy. I hope you're here for a very long time. But Psyonix, get Shogun back on the fucking scene. Like, get him on the payroll, get his visa sorted, use that argument to say, look, he's part of our marketing now, and use that to get him into and use that to get him back through the door, or just open an EU studio and get some of the other guys involved, because that in my opinion would be the ideal situation, because you have no idea how many times we've been told that we should be casting the RLCS. Not to toot my own horn, but let me tell you, like, lately it's gotten fucking ridiculous. So let's move on. Let's talk about RCD Espanyol. We mentioned that this was the organization competing in the ESL Spanish series with the Pepetyos Canyons roster. Or this is basically the announcement that they're picking up the Pepetyos Canyons roster. So now they're competing. Who would have thought? I know, Bacon. How could you possibly? How could you possibly think that this might be a prospect? It's not like it's been rumored and literally represented in tournaments in the past. But yes,
it's not like
RCD
Espanyol. 3 of the RCD players were Pepetyos Canyons.
Yeah.
And we're suddenly picking them up. For me, I don't understand why they weren't going into it as a sponsored team, but at any rate, RCD have been around for ages, so yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a fun little one.
I finally got a Mr. Ube face reveal though by that tweet as well, because I didn't actually get to see the GIF before. They're so young. This makes me feel old just looking at players for Rocket League.
You're like 24 now, aren't you? So
Yep.
Old man Bacon, old man. It's okay, mate. In hang on, 1, 2, a little over 3 weeks from now, I'll be 23. So it's all good. We're the old men of Rocket League these days. Like, this would be the point now where it's like we'd be at peak form if we're pro players, but we're not pro players, so we're shit. Right, let's move on and talk about the last little piece of news. I wanted to end off on a semi-positive note, although there is a negative undertone to this one, because it has to do with LPL. We talked about, obviously, the tragedy that was not getting Yumi Cheeseman on for the LPL OCE Pro League. We said to ourselves. We were saying on the podcast that it was fucking tragic that he was not brought on for league play. Well, there's this announcement that came out from LPL. We're thrilled to announce that Yumi Cheeseman will be joining the talent desk for the LPL Pro Rocket League Oceanic Championship Land Finals weekend at LPL Studios. Right, guys, can we learn some commas, please? That'll be all right to start. Second thing is, okay, great. We've got Yumi Cheeseman back. Hooray. Third point, why is this only for the Land Finals weekend? Like, guys... This is you've really fucked up this time. Like, this is, I understand. It's fucking frustrating, dude. It's so frustrating to see this because he should be on for the whole season. I understand they're trying to make amends for what for the fuck up, but this is just not good enough. He should have been on from the start. He should have been brought on as soon as the first week of league play went down, because I'll be honest with you, the production and casting was shit. It was terrible. It's still shit. It's still shit. It's terrible. I've watched some of the weeks of the league play, and it's like having casters who have never actually done Rocket League before trying to do play-by-play in color. And it's like, it reminds me of when I first did Rocket League, because I did not know what I was doing. And for me, I did not start with the RLCS. I started with Leaf League. I started very, very low end of the table, and not even doing Leaf League main. I'm doing Leaf League Challenger. So like, I didn't even do much of the big stuff that the guys that Shogun and Leafex did. I did very, very low level shit before finally building up to be at a point where now people consider me at that level. And these guys have just been like blasted in because they're LPL guys, and meanwhile the greats of Yumi Cheeseman are getting a weekend on the OCE Rocket League thing. Like, this is not acceptable. This is still not acceptable, in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, like, we were there going, we understand how it can happen because, yeah, this is New Zealand, Jens. We can understand how this will happen because essentially it's LPL trying to run with a budget and turn profit on this. But
here's the thing, right? LPL just got a TV deal, which tells me, and they still weren't able to bring Yumi in for the whole season, to set him up for that. It's like, that tells me one of two things. Number one, you either there's something fishy with this TV deal, or number two, you sold it for very, very cheap, and you don't want to give You don't want to give the extra budget to getting Yummy out. Or number 3, you just wanted to pocket. You made a massive deal. You wanted to pocket it for yourselves. And LPL are not exactly a low budget company, because if you scroll through their Twitter, you'll find an interesting little video about how their studio tower, which is essentially what might as well be BT Tower except in fucking New Zealand. That little the building that they're operating out of, they're talking about how it's going carbon neutral, and it looks like a really, really swanky building. So to me, it tells me that LPL are cutting some serious corners on this project, and they are messing with the OCE Rocket League, OCE Rocket League sort of championship, you know?
Yeah, and you worry about the state, because when OCE now, from my outside knowledge, seems to be literally RLCS or nothing, in the sense of this is all they've got, because a lot of the ESL stuff, all the Gfinity stuff has just gone away now, hasn't it, down in Australia. So when this is the premier, the only event going on outside of, we'll shout out to the Gauntlet and the Glove for running, for keeping that going on a weekly and bi-weekly basis. But yeah, when that's the big thing, and that's for your game, Psyonix really should have stepped it up and maybe gone, okay, we'll give you guys maybe a little bit extra budget, but this is the minimum that has to be met, and then actually set a bar, not just hand over money and let a company run with it. Essentially, you set a specification and a guideline to follow, Jay.
I'm trying to find this.
This tower.
I'm trying to find this video so we can play it on stream, so you can see what I'm talking about, because it's fucking ridiculous, mate. I can't believe that this was actually a thing that they posted, and they're saying we can't afford to do, we can't afford to get someone like Yumi Cheeseman, the voice of OCE Rocket League. Like, we can't afford to do that. I think it might be on their HQ Twitter, which I'm trying to find right now. Let's have a look. Here it is. I'm going to post this in, and I'm going to post this in Twitch chat, and I'll also post it in the thing so you can get it on the VOD, Craig. But if you want to just play this video really quickly, without the sound or anything, but you can see what I'm talking about. Because, like, this, you can just see it right there. Like, that does not look like a cheap building. It does not look like a cheap studio. Like, Jinx TV is run out of a fucking mobile home, right? This is a professional esports studio being run out of essentially what is BT Tower in Bourbon. Like, And this has a terrible production, terrible casters, and you're telling me you cannot afford someone like Yumi Cheeseman? Give me a fucking break. Come on, dude.
It's just depressing.
Stupid.
Nothing more to add to it, to be honest, Jay. It's just there, like I said, nickel and diamond is what it seems, and good stuff. Yummy's coming back, of course, for the finals, because that to me always feels like vital. It'd be what's the term, sacrilege, if he wasn't involved in any way. But for me, at the same time, for a lot of the guys that are coming on in, putting a lot of work within the whole of OC, and then being like just swept aside for newbies just because they're using in-house talent and all of that. It feels bad. Like, in-house talent, there is a bar. Like, you take Onset, for example, over here in the UK. He's a lad which you can trust at any fucking game, and he'll do a great job on it, it feels like.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing with Praggy, right? She might not have the greatest of knowledge in the Rocket League scene, but at least she's, like, professional enough to say, right, we can bring her in on any project, and she'll do a great job. And that she's also not doing an expert role. She's not being a color commentator, or even a play-by-play commentator. She's being a host, She's doing something along the lines of the outsider looking in sort of role, which is exactly what guys like Onset and Praggy can do. Even then, Onset took on the role of being a commentator in the Gfinity Elite Series really fucking well and put the work in. I don't think these guys are putting the work in right now, because 3 weeks in, we're still shit, And again, this could have all been avoided.
No real competition. So they can get away with a shit
that's
product.
the problem. That's the problem, right? This all could have been avoided if you just spent the money, you got the sponsor. It looks like you got some cash based off this video. So we should have had Yummy in from the start. And again, the fact that he's been brought in, while it's great, I still think that it should have been done earlier, and I still think it should have been done for a much bigger term. So there you go. LPL fucking up again. GG no re. SFX, right. Let's go to the mailbag for this week. Obviously, for those of you who might not be aware, listening to the podcast, watching the VOD, or here on Twitch, we have a little Discord community that, of course, you can join in and you can have a chat with us about the Rocket League esports space. We've got a lot of things going on right now, actually. We got the RLCS and RLRS EU Pick'em Challenge being run by our good mod in Dexter, who's not a mod in the Twitch chat for some reason. I'm going to quickly change that because that should not be that way.
You done fucked on this one, boy.
Yeah, I done fucked up on that one. I don't know, man. My social media is a general mess. But no, we've got that going on. And of course, you can also join the Discord to participate in the mailbag questions, which we have got a few for you this week from our lovely fans. First off, Velixo coming back in to answer some more questions. We'll start with this one for next week, which of course meant the episode that was supposed to be last week because we're fucking, dipshits and we didn't do the show. Do you think we'll be seeing coaches on stage from Madrid? Now, would I like to see coaches on stage from Madrid? Absolutely. I would love to see some coaches on the stage from Madrid. The problem is that this is the RLCS we're talking about, and the coaching rule was only brought in for the sake of the DreamHack tournaments. And if they were able to copy that rule set into the RLCS, brilliant, awesome. We'd be seeing coaches on stage from Madrid. But I don't think there's any sort of guarantee for that in respect,
Yeah, for me, looking at it, I don't think they're going to change the rules on the fly here to allow it. I could see this being maybe a next season thing, Jay, because it does seem like we've said before there's going to be 10 teams next season. They might change up something internationally, but if I was to see an announcement about it, I'd imagine it would be like a at start of season thing. And Psyonix would be a lot more hyped about it. Who knows? It could still come through, but there hasn't been anything, and I haven't heard anyone shout out about it in the rule set, on the website and that. So, nah, we're not going to get coaches on stage for RLCS Madrid.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's something I'd love to see. We all want it because it made such a positive impact and improved the product, I believe, of the DreamHack tournaments. But for RLCS, we've seen how slow it takes or how long it takes Psyonix to implement changes, and it doesn't feel like this is one that they're interested in changing. So
even then, on that case, at the weekend at EGX, you got to be sort of like a stand-in temporary coach, you and Craftman, for the Beyond stuff. But the fact was that Shots, I can remember, turning around to Crafters afterwards and said, you helped so much there just for bringing up morale, trying to actually keep the team hyped, because it is so easy when you go down by 2 games or so to just say, we're done, or be really depressed about it, essentially, for lack of words. And just keeping that morale up is one aspect of a coach which is really overlooked. And on a stage, I think definitely for next season this needs to be a thing, because right now it is getting to the point of it just looks a little bit dire. And for me as well, when it's just such a commonplace thing in every bloody esport and it's not there in Rocket League, it just, you look and go, but why? It comes down to York whether they have a coach or not the the event organizer, really. Generally it's just standard place. You just put it, okay, you're not allowed to have your own spectator screen. You can only see what your players are seeing in front, and you can't be in comms during the game. But afterwards, you're free for that 1 minute to just talk about whatever you need to with the guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Even then, we got a shout out after the weekend from EGX. By the way, shout out to Omen, by the way, for allowing me to work at EGX. That's a fun little story for another day. Cynical actually put a tweet out after the event was over talking about how we had cheerleaders behind us and shit, saying how much I screamed. And if you were there, man, if you watched that VOD, go back and watch that VOD, twitch.tv/belongarenas, and go find the HyperX community clash, and go watch the winners finals between MK Enigmas and Claymores, because my god, me and Crafters, we had a fucking ball. And especially in game 7, right? In the break between game 6 and game 7, we had a bit of an interview thing where you and me, where you and Sin, the commentator, doing that.
Just handing the mics over. That was
Yeah,
it.
you sort of came to us and started interviewing us, and Crafters and me, being the fucking mates that we are, we fucking trash talk each other big time. It was fantastic. It was like a scene at the WWE where I just grabbed Sin's handheld after Crafters dissed MK, saying, Milton Keynes, what have they got? They've got losers and like dual carriageways. I just grabbed the mic like, fucking bitch, say what? No, you ain't doing that. But it was fantastic, dude. And there's so much potential as well, because unlike the players who might not have as much sort of personality because they're concentrated in the middle of the game, the coaches can bring out so much more of that because they're looking at the game from a certain perspective. And I think that's insight that could be very well utilized, and it's insight that as well could just be very well sort of and personality as well that could be very well projected on something like an RLCS broadcast, you know.
Yeah, and after that, I was talking to Ash, who was sort of like overseeing, directing the whole event, and he just went with us, we've got to do that again in the future. Like, essentially, this needs to be a thing. Because when you've got the job of, like, you know, a stage host, like, just put them out, like, in between games. Rocket League, there's not much talking going on it. So if you want for that one bit, just get that stage host out there with a mic and quickly talk and fill that one section bit, because a lot of the breakdown after games, like, sometimes isn't needed because strategies don't change. But you could just say, right, after every game 3, just throw out these stage hosts to have a quick word for that, like, 40-second period with, you know, the coach of one of the teams. It works.
Yeah, with the coach, I certainly think it will make good content. I'm a little bit wary about interviewing players, obviously, in the middle of a match. So
don't throw them off,
Don't throw them off, don't do anything like that. I feel like that might have affected the players to a certain extent during the match when we did it for the HyperX thing, but experimental sort of situation. It was a fun tournament anyway, and I fucking loved it. We had an absolute blast putting that whole thing together. So again, if you haven't watched that VOD, go watch it because it was fucking lit. Anyways, so that's our thought on coaches in Madrid. Next question again from Velixo. Any guesses or rumours regarding PSG and Rocket League moving forward? They've done a Fnatic, guys. They said we're looking for new teams. I mean, looking for new players, but the truth of the matter is that they are not going to get a new team or new players. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, we've already seen this happen before. Especially considering that me and Bacon would have heard by now if they had any plans to enter back into Rocket League. We haven't heard anything. We haven't heard anything whatsoever.
If we expect to see anything from them, it would be at the end of the season, if an RLRS team that's unsigned, just straight off the top of my head, someone along the lines of Flumperzon or Discombobulars get promoted, they don't have an org, that's where PSG will try and swoop in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah, like, I think that PSG could potentially have another comeback in Rocket League. Like, obviously, they've got a vested interest in esports as a whole, but they're among that sort of, like, you know, elite few who didn't get involved in the esports items. And, you know, the team towards the end of their venture, like, you know, especially because I know that before DreamHack Valencia, PSG was set to leave the organization anyway. So, you know, the contracts were not renewed by that point. So, therefore, it felt like PSG had made the decision they weren't going to go back on it, and now that they've lost out on a team that is now the best in the world, they're probably regretting that to a certain extent. So they might end up souring the taste of the managers a little bit. You know, again, I don't have any insight into that. That's just me throwing shit into the wind. So, you know, I haven't got any particular sort of special knowledge on that. I'm just saying that that's how I'd be if we ran a team like that, and then the team went on to win, to win the next event, and then go toe to toe with the best in the next 2 events, and obviously now sit on the top in the RLCS. You know, I'm just saying that's my mentality. Whether that's true for them, I don't know. But as of right now, we haven't heard anything in regards to PSG. In terms of speculation, there's not really many teams they can pick up at the moment. You know, the RLRS guys have all sort of been gobbled up by other organizations, except the Discombobulators. But I don't think they've got any French connection. You know, Baguette Squad are not.
This would just be.
Bloody hell.
It's sorry for sounding like a dead dog or something like that, but...
Well, yeah, you actually peeked out the fucking mic on TeamSpeak, so, you know...
Why would you not? Like, that is the perfect little combination. But Get Squad, if they make top 6, stay in the RLRS, or, you know, push through, and PSG don't pick them up, I'd be upset.
Well, again, it's this thing of, like, you know... where
they want winners.
Where they stand right now. Like PSG, like they're obviously a great football club, and they're obviously in with PSG LGD, which is one of the biggest and best sort of Dota 2 teams that we have right now in the Dota 2 scene. And they want that French connection. They want a winning squad, and I don't think the Baguette squad are a winning squad. I don't think many people do believe that. Right now they're sitting middle of the table in the RLRS, and not exactly
3-2. It's not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. But again, it's not reciprocity levels of not bad, like that's the problem. That's the problem, I think, from the mentality of PSG. They're not in this for the sake of just doing some casual shit in esports. They're like a vitality. They've come in, new players to the space, right? We're gonna get the best players, the best teams going and everything, and yeah, that's the reason why I don't think we've heard anything from PSG, because there isn't a team like that they can pick up at the moment. Maybe in the future, you never know, but we'll see. Anyways, let's move on. As soon as I get this burp out of my fucking chest, it's been there for the past 10 minutes.
Wow.
Oh, lovely. Okay. tyswoogles. Is it
I was about to
surprising?
start reading Ty's thing, just being there like, I'll take it. But no, you go.
Is it surprising to you that ARG are struggling this season in the Rival Series after a top 3 finish in the last season? So we were obviously going to talk about ARG a little bit later on, so we'll just sort of move that segment to now and talk about ARG's current performance and how you feel like this has gone down. Because personally, it doesn't surprise me at all. ARG are we've not seen them since last season. Not in any bubble scene tournaments, not in any casual tournaments. Nothing at all.
They got complacent.
They got complacent. They got Astralis level of complacent. And for those of you who don't know about Astralis in the Counter-Strike scene, they basically didn't attend any top tournaments for like ages. And what happened to them? They basically lost their top spot because they were getting too complacent. They weren't attending tournaments. They weren't practicing against the best. They weren't playing against the best. And in the end, the best overtook them, not only by default, but also in skill. And Astralis right now, they're still a pretty decent team. They just won the last major. But other than, compared to the Astralis of old, where they were just like the most dominant team in the world and no one could touch them, like it's not the same thing. And that's exactly what's happened here with ARG, just minus the fact that they're not the best team in the world. They have never been the best team in the world in Rocket League. And because they haven't competed since the last season of the RLRS, they fucked it basically. They've not kept up with the meta. They've not kept up with the current level of play, and they look like a team that could very easily drop out this season because of that fact. It doesn't surprise me whatsoever that IRG are struggling because they didn't practice essentially. They didn't put their work in. They didn't put the effort in trying to maintain their spot in the RLRS.
And let's also note that arguably the level this season is higher across the board. Like Baguette squad last season were okay. Vikings were pretty meh. Zeno Moon looked really good up until RLRS, where they just like there. And then the right overs as well, Skyline, Bilbo, and Calix were just they snuck in. No one's expecting them there. Whereas this season, everyone knew there was going to be such a large amount of competition coming into this season of RLRS, and ARG are just one amongst the bunch. They're nothing stand out this season.
Yeah. Especially when you've got teams like AS Monaco currently competing and they're looking pretty set to do it right now. Discombobulate is swinging out of the gate doing a really fucking good job, with all these talents that have been stepping up. The RLRS is the place where you need to grind the hardest because you could easily lose your spot to any of the bubble scene teams that are grinding hard, and especially with teams that are coming out of the woodwork that are doing as well as they have with the severe lack of tournaments we have available. Like that to me seems like a very a big sort of like no essentially for anyone like ALG in that position. Like you can't afford to do shit like that. So yeah, they're getting exactly what they decided to serve out, and that is just a lack of performance results, and not the team that we saw back in the Renegade Cup, who did an insane amount of clutch comeback and managed to make it as far as they did. So there you go. Let's move on and talk about Veloce from Dexter, our brilliant mod. Dex is the man that's running the Aftershock pick'em game. So he's the dude behind it all. So yeah, if you want to stop by the Discord, again, it's in the show notes and the video description of every episode of the podcast, or if you're in the Twitch, that is !_ Discord right now. Join in and get involved in our special pick'em prediction game where you can predict the outcomes of every match on the RLCS and RLRS. I think there's 2 different competitions being run for that, so it doesn't all stack up. So you can do well in one and not do well in the other and still kind of play along. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm not taking part in it because I'm too fucking lazy. So there you go. Yeah, he asks, Veloce are having a season very reminiscent of Season 6 mousesports, having a monstrous Week 1 going 2-0, and then falling to the league's best team in Week 2. Does this team have the calibre to avoid repeating Season 6 mousesports' fate of barely scraping above relegation on game difference, or could they find themselves in a similar or worse fate? Now, I will say that in obviously for context, by the way, this was posted, I believe, before the last week went down. So obviously he doesn't. We're going to talk about. We're going to treat this as if it was last week's show. And we're not going to treat them, and we're not going to talk about the results from Week 3, obviously, because you know, even after the context, you could technically treat Renault Vitality as the best team in the league, even with Reciprocity also being in there, sort of contesting for that measure. And obviously, we didn't see what Veloce did this week as well at that point. But with that said, I don't think that, you know, seeing a team fall to the best team in the league is a good measure of that team's sort of overall caliber, because yes, if they're the best team in the league, they're going to win. That's pretty obvious to me. You know, that seems like a very obvious sort of a statement to me. When it comes to sort of like reminiscing of mousesports' fate, like mousesports, they're an inconsistent team anyway. So it was going to happen something like this. The last season was the disaster season for them. They really easily could have dropped off. It just came down to a really sort of lucky sort of set of circumstances that they managed to make it back into the RLCS, you know?
Yeah, and it was the team making it back into RLCS as an org, not as the team itself. That was the old flip side roster, which most people, when they went into that promotion tournament, looked at and went, nah, they should be safe to come back up. It's fine. Looking at this right now, yeah, it was way too early. No spoilers for this week. Of course, we'll get onto that a bit later. But yeah, you're going up against Vitality, who at that point were just 1-0, taking down Complexity. Was pretty much expected going into Week 2 against Veloce. Everyone would put their money in Vitality for that. That's how it went. And so Vitality were, for the first 2 weeks anyway, playing as expected.
Yeah, and again, you know, I don't feel like there's many results to take away from that sort of week in comparison. You know, obviously, like Veloce have proven at this point that they have got the caliber to avoid that same sort of mousesports Season 6 fate. But we'll talk about that in more detail when we come to our tournament roundup at the end of the show. For now, obviously, want to thank Dex for your question and go on to Tagmata's question, the Cone Man himself, who fucked up recently actually by not being able to take the flawless victories in the Belong Arena Clash. So we got to berate you for that one, mate. But yes, he talks about the Astronaut Star Circuit. I love talking about NA tournaments, Bacon. I really do. With the addition of the Astronauts Star Circuit, what are your guys' thoughts on this if you haven't already talked about it? Right, so for those of you who might not be aware, and if you follow this show and only this show, you won't be aware because the announcement came down from the Astronauts boys who've been running those Beyond Astronauts tournaments. Those monthly tournaments, about $5,000 each, that just go in and out of into North American tournaments. It's a North American circuit essentially, but they announced a $30,000 circuit very recently, which is essentially North American only. Now, I know what you're going to say about this, Bacon, and that it's essentially just, you know, beyond being a private company, you know, having their own private event for North America, which in that respect, I can understand why you'd have no issue with this. Here's the problem. I know for a fact that there are tournaments that Psyonix have cancelled because they've gone past the $5,000 threshold, right? I can tell you right now that there is at least one that should have happened in the last couple of weeks. And it's not the only one as well, right? You know, Zland is the one thing that other people talk about. There have been like a ton of tournaments that we've tried to plan behind the scenes and they have not come through because Psyonix have not given permission for them. And that's because they all break the $5,000 marker. This not only breaks the $5,000 marker, it fucking sextuples it. It goes 6 times over the actual marker, and Psyonix have given permission to run this circuit. And meanwhile, we've got tournaments like the Rocket Baguettes giving $5,000 or €1,000 or whatever the hell it is, like the tiniest amounts that you possibly can, because you can't afford to go past that level of that level of tournament caliber. And credit to the Baguettes, right? They've done a really good job at making that work with esports management and with AS Monaco and such, but why is it that there is no tournament organizers in the scene that want to try and organize a $10,000 tournament? Why is there no support for those tournament organizers? Because again, they have cropped up several times. They have wanted to do tournaments for it. I know that the Bacon had a particular event that he wanted to plan in relation to Epic Land that had a $10,000 prize pool, but we couldn't get the permission for it because of Psyonix. And again, there was another tournament that, if you've been watching my Twitter, you know all about that, fucking got canned by Psyonix. And this is not the first time this happened. It's not the last time it's happened. And while I appreciate that, yes, astronauts want to run a North American circuit, why is it that the other attempts to do such a thing in the European scene have been shut down?
Yeah, so essentially my problem is not with astronauts, or no one's problem should be of that, because I liken it to Gfinity. Jay, that got run in and was, I want to say that was 50 grand per game, wasn't it? Or was it 15? I can't remember off the top of my head.
The prize pool?
Yeah.
£40,000.
40,000. There you go. Thank you. And so for me, yeah, it's absolutely fine. Makes sense. But like you said, the big question is, like, why are other projects that are trying to get set up being knocked down? Like, then it's really making it unhealthy in the EU at the moment. Like, Rocket Baguettes are holding everything on their backs, not only with their small, like with their Thrustmaster 2v2, is it? No, that's the 3v3. It's the FNAC stuff that's the 2v2 at the moment. But also, they're Rising Stars, where they've set up a whole European thing. Like, those lads are doing everything. Naturally, your other orgs are struggling to step up because they need to run with money. Like the bigger guys, say Rewind and Rival. But it's hard at the moment, Joe, and a lot of it comes down to a lot of sponsors coming in and knowing that anything below 5,000 is not going to get the viewership that you want. Gone are the days where you can get 10,000 viewers on a 1,000 or even $5,000 prize pool. You have to step up to the next game, because essentially it comes down to big teams. Your major RLCS teams aren't going to bother with anything like of 5,000 or below normally. So you've got to then reach it to a point where they're interested in competing in your tournaments.
Yeah.
That's why the Astroneers, all the RLCS teams from America are interested. Thus, you'll get the return of interest with the viewership and sponsors. 2,500? Who gives a shit?
Exactly. And that's the reason why Rising Stars did not, or the Superstar League did not get the kind of attention that it really should have done. Especially when you take a look at the current way that things have worked out in regards to the, especially the Rocket Kingdom sort of stuff. Like, that has a very low level of fucking viewership and talent, and the Superstar League as a whole. I'm just taking a look at some of the
players are good. The
players are all right.
But yeah, talent is because stuff like they can't pay because naturally they don't have the budget for it. Like, there's not anything there.
Yeah.
But it's a struggle at the moment, because at the same time, they're struggling for talent and casters to come through because there's not much going on and there seems to be no progression. So we're happy. Like, I say we're happy. We're okay as casters at the moment, but we're the exceptional few I know that can make casting an okay thing within EU, because it's a struggle. Otherwise, there is no, I want to say, actual introduction and then any sort of seeable route out of volunteer work.
Yeah, and again, taking a look at the way that the Rocket Baguette thing has worked out with €1,000, it has, I think, it was hyped up a lot. I think that overall they're probably going to be happy with what they've done. But again, it's very underwhelming when you compare it to what astronauts are doing. And they've got Astro as a sponsor, and they've obviously got the permission from Psyonix to run this kind of a circuit, unless there is some sort of loophole that they've managed to exploit that I'm not fucking aware of, in which case
we need to find this right now.
In which case, I'm open to understanding it right now, because if there was, then fuck me, RLRS circuit is going to get started so fucking quick you have no idea. So yeah, the bottom line is that I don't have a problem with astronauts. I don't have a problem with Astro. I don't have a problem with BeyondNet. I have a problem with the fact that the concept, the fact that this is a massive thing for North America online, and the EU bubble tournaments have fallen off. We do not have the rival weeks anymore. We do not have the Colosseums. We do not have obviously we don't have the Renegade Cup, which, if you're hearing what I'm hearing, and if what I'm hearing is true, is a very bullshit sort of reasoning as to why it's not coming back. We do not have the Psyonix sponsored community tournaments anymore. They don't support the stuff like the Colosseum or the Play or anything like those things anymore. We don't see any of those tournaments because it feels like they're not interested in doing that anymore. And maybe that's because of the Epic money coming through that I'm hearing might be coming through in the next season, but I don't fucking know because communication has been so little. We don't have any inside contacts that are direct from us here at RLRShock. So, you know, again, I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with North America. I don't have a problem with any of this shit going down. But when are we going to see this come to EU? Because EU is the region that can do the most with it, and EU is the region that need it the most. And again, if we want a global league, we need to support shit like this, but in EU. And we're not seeing it. We've not seen it. And even when people have tried to, it's been shut down, which frustrates me individually as well, because that's also my job going up the fucking spout. But again, I won't get into that because I'll really get into a rant, and I've been advised not to talk about that situation, so I won't. Anyways, final thoughts on that one before we close out the mailbag.
Not really, just other than, like, why close stuff down when realistically the free market, the openness essentially to run what you want actually develops the game better and advertises it in much more ways that, you know, you don't have to spend money on yourself. All you've got to do is give permission, be there like, yeah, sure, go run that 10K event. Seems so silly.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your questions, guys. I do know that we've had a couple of mailbag questions come in over in the last couple of moments, which I don't want to add to the show because we are relatively short on time today. But rest assured that in the next week we'll be able to answer some of those questions going forward in the next episodes of RLAfterShock. Of course, if you're listening to this live or via the VOD audio podcast, then you can get into involved with the show and into the Discord via the Discord links in the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast. Join us for our pick and prediction challenge, and of course join us for the mailbag segment that chances are we're going to be able to answer every week now because it's gotten really active in the last couple of weeks. So yes, get involved, and again we will answer those questions on next episode of the show. Right, let's talk tournaments because we have a lot of catching up to do. Obviously, we missed out on week 2 because we weren't available for the podcast. People actually don't know why we didn't do a podcast last week, and I'll explain exactly why. We were both very, very busy. So for those of you who don't know how our weeks go, Monday is doing the TCS Esports League. Tuesday, we're traveling to the Belong studio. So the 2 days where we would have usually been doing the podcast, which originally it was Monday, and then it moved to Tuesdays for that reason, those are now days are now taken up by other tournaments. And obviously that's paid work, so we have to take it. Otherwise, we don't get to eat tonight. And then there is this past weekend especially, there was this also event called EGX, you may or may not have heard of. It's the Electronic Gaming Expo. Happens in London. We were working that as well, except for me personally. While Bacon was only working the Saturday and Sunday, I was working there from the Wednesday. So I was there for setup, straight through to Packdown, and I had a fucking ridiculous days, a ridiculous weekend of doing God knows what, stage managing again for Omen. Shout out to these boys. Hell, you guys, actually no, fuck it, Omen, if you guys want to sponsor a circuit right now, like I'm pretty sure we can find a way to get you guys involved, right? Like, you know, Bacon's got contacts. Bacon's got contacts. I've got the production experience. I might be setting up a studio soon. So fuck it. Let's do the Omen Challenger circuit for EU, right? I'm gonna slide into Claris's DMs and see if we can get that sorted. But anyway, going back on topic. Yeah, we were very busy, so we didn't get a chance to catch up on the on the second week of league play for RLCS and RLRS. So we're going to sort of like run through everything, try and give as big a recap as possible, and we'll sort of just go through everything and all the talking points that we have. So.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's been busy non-stop for us, ain't it? We haven't had weekends off throughout the whole of October so far, and that whole
scheduling thing is the reason why we're moving this to is the reason why we're moving the show to Thursday. So you may have not noticed that we're not putting this out on Tuesdays and Wednesdays anymore. It's now going to be on Thursday. Hopefully, I can get the episode VOD and podcast out on the Thursday as well. That's going to be a bit of a fucking challenge as soon as I get into that. Anyway, so let's get into the tournament roundup again. We've stalled for enough time. Let's talk about the RLRS. So we'll start off with week 2, where the Baguette squad took on the Discombobulators, the Underwater squad took on Fadeaway, Discombobulators took on Vertex, and the Ekazulu boys took on the Method guys, and they came out in relatively decent form. I think, for the most part, the expected sort of results. Discombobulators 3-1 up against the Baguette squad. Fadeaway beating out Underwater squad flawlessly. Discombobulator beating out Vertex flawlessly. And Method beating out Echo Zulu flawlessly. Then the off-stream and second stream matches. Underwater squad managed to take out the Echo Zulu boys within a single game. RCD lost to Flomp Razon. ARG took a victory above Vertex. And Method beat out RCD, with Flomp Razon finally shutting down the ARG side. Then in week 3, RCD, Flomp Razon, ARG and Baguette squad got wins above the Baguette squad, Underwater squad, RCD and Method respectively. Then Vertex beat out Flomp Razon in the off-stream recorded match, and then the off-stream, the second stream live matches, there was Echo Zulu beating out AS Monaco, Method beating out Underwater Squad, and Discombobulators taking on Echo Zulu and ASM, but only beating out Echo Zulu, with ASM getting a 3-1 victory above the Discombobulators. Leaving your regular season standings as the Discombobulators up at 4-1, top of the table against all odds. AS Monaco down by a series right now. They haven't played 5, but they're up 3-1 still. Method and Flop Horizon are also there, tied for the second, third, and fourth places, separated by a total of 3 game difference between the last place and first place team in that particular tie group. In 5th and 6th, we have the alumni from last season, Baguette Squad and ARG, currently holding out at 3-2 and 2-2, respectively, on their individual win-loss record. Then in the bottom 4, RCD Espanyol are currently 2-4 down. Underwater Squad are 1-3 down. Echo Zulu are 1-4 down, and Vertex are also 1-4 down. That's the exact same game difference between those two teams as well. So they're not in the best of spots right now. So let's start talking about the Discombobulators. Hello, Doggo. Let's talk about the Discombobulators because we thought to ourselves, this is a team that we think could have the potential to do some damage. They're a dark horse, but I think that ending up the middle of the table right now is a very, very respectable sort of position for them to be in. Well, we want to talk about respectable, fucking top of the table for the boys of Discombobulators. Like, oh my God. They have certainly surpassed, I think, most expectations, certainly the ones that we've set for them on the show. So big shout outs to the Discombobulators. They've done really well.
Yeah, they're only lost to AS Monaco now, the Fadeaway squad. That is, by all means, understandable. No one would think anything like that. A star-studded roster, a bit like AS Monaco, a bit like, say, Complexity last season, should have been the team to just go straight out of it. But even then, AS Monaco, who did they drop to? If I'm quickly checking right now, who was it that beat them? It was Echo Zulu. That was it, which was just completely like left field. And I can remember that game. It was super close. And Echo Zulu are more lucky than anything. It felt more like AS Monaco were really off key for that game. So we clearly have a top 2. Like Flomp Rosano still got doubts about the same Method, but Discombobulators, like for me, I have been so impressed, and I will call it now. They're safe into next season, you know?
I mean, there's still obviously the possibility that they could do a
drop the next 4 games, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You know, they could pull a fucking hashtag United and then drop every single match after the fact. You know, like there's certainly that potential right there for them. But with the way that they're performing right now, if they brought that to any of the other teams, I think they're in pretty good hands. Like, take a look at the talent they've beaten. They've beaten Baguette Squad. They've beaten ARG. They even took a game off AS Monaco. For fuck's sake, that's pretty impressive in my opinion. And obviously, they're all confident victories that they're taking. Right now, they've got Flomp Razon, which would be a bit of a challenge, and Method will be a bit of a challenge. But other than that, I'd say that with the way that they're playing, RCD and Underwater Squad, they'll be a bit of an easy sort of set of matches for Discombobulators. So yeah, there's a chance they can make top 4.
RCD pretty easily. Underwater Squad will be questionable purely because Underwater Squad are odd to face against with their different styles. But yeah, those should be 2 easy wins. And like I said, safely out. Like they should at least get 6 wins for this season, which will put them top 4.
Well, it's funny you say that actually, because I did want to talk about the Underwater Squad boys, because I know that you praised them pretty highly. I remember you like singing Bilbo's hopes, and that's fair play to him right there with the way he played in the play-ins. But they've not held on at all. You know, they've had that play-in run, and now they're at 1-3 in terms of the overall. In terms of the overall standings, which puts them in the bottom 3 at the moment. They've got to do some serious turnaround to try and see if they can claw back a spot back into next season or in the playoffs. So they've simmered out, you know. They've sort of like fallen to pieces. That's the reason why I think that our Underwater Squad will be a relatively decent victory for them, because it's entirely possible. I feel like Underwater Squad, they haven't brought it to the table what we need to see out of them.
Can we just note, though, that the teams they've faced up against, their first match was against Fadeaway. AS Monaco. They then took down Echo Zulu. The next match was up against Result, which they just lost to in Game 5. Result put on a very good performance for that. And then, of course, they dropped to Method. So essentially, 3 out of the top 4, Jay, is who they lost to, and they beat Echo Zulu. I'm not so worried. I think this is a team that, again, I still think Underwater Squad will scrape by and get that 5th, 6th spot.
I don't know, man. Something's not right about this team.
Teams. Like,
I know, but even with that taken into consideration, there's something that doesn't feel right about their place in the RLRS. I don't know why. There's something that's not ticking with me. There's something that's it's just not lining up to what I think could be an RLRS caliber team. I'm going to disagree with you on this one, and I probably have to take a look at some demo reviews and try and figure it out specifically. But there's something not clicking with this team, and something that doesn't look quite right compared to how they played in the play-ins. So the jury's still out for the Underwater Squad right now. Yes, their placement has not really been. Obviously, it's been down to the best teams in the league, but again, the jury's still out for me. I kind of want to see whether they'll be able to reignite what we needed to see. Speaking of reigniting the spark, Echo Zulu have been unable to do it. So these guys have lost to Baguette Squad, lost to the Discombobulator's. They somehow managed to beat AS Monaco.
Because AS Monaco was shit on that one.
Yeah,
they felt just so lethargic. Is weird.
It's a bit weird, but other than that, they've essentially only won 6 games out of all the series they played, and they've lost 4 of the 5 series they played. Again, Underwater Squad being a loss, Method being a loss, Discombobulators being a loss, and a Baguette Squad team being a loss for them right now. Echo Zulu are down at the bottom end of the table, and I'm not going to lie, Bacon, we kind of called this. We said it. We'd said about it in the play-ins. We thought to ourselves, this is a bit of a result, and we're happy to see these guys go for it. But now's the time to prove themselves, and I don't think they've proven themselves this time.
Yeah, so the games remaining for Echo Zulu are RCD Espanyol, possible. Flump Result, that's going to be super hard.
Yeah.
Vertex, that's doable. And ARG, middling. So by all means, just like straight from those responses, I reckon it is going to be bottom 4. Don't get me wrong, they're only 1 win technically off of getting like that sort of spot there, because ARG are currently on 2-2. But you got to think ARG are in a very similar camp, and it's just that case of the bottom, like, sort of lot are all so close. When you compare them to, let's just say, Underwater Squad, who still have a game in hand compared to Echo Zulu, you're going to favor Underwater Squad there. So Echo Zulu, this is going to have to be perfect from here on out just to scrape a spot into next season, which I don't see.
I kind of want to agree with you on that one. It's going to be a tough graft. It's really going to be a tough graft for them right now. Like, with Echo Zulu as well, they're such a loved sort of team, so it kind of sucks that we have to say this. But the truth of the matter is that the fire burnt out long ago. Like, I think they've really missed their window to getting into the RLRS. If they got in last season after the DreamHack run, then okay, I could have seen them having the potential to carry that momentum forward. But because they've been out of action ever since DreamHack, like, again, we've seen this situation where it's just not worked. It's not worked whatsoever for them, and yeah, again, like, I don't see any other way out. Again, it has to be completely flawless. They have to get all their victories, and they've still got to face up against. Hold on, let's find out. Still got to face up against ARG, Flump Result, RCD Espanyol, and Vertex. And again, as you mentioned, those guys.
I can see 2 wins out of that.
Some of them could be, some of them could come out as wins. Others, I'm not 100% certain of. So, yeah, Echo Zulu. I'm not liking their chances at the moment. I don't think. I think, yeah, I'm not going to write them off until it's over. But at the same time, it's like, it might. It's like one of those things. It's like, I don't want to be that guy, but the facts are staring me in the face. Anyways, let's talk about Method. Currently sitting at 3rd, behind AS Monaco by 2 games at the moment. So certainly within the safety zone of the rival series, their promotion playoffs. This is a team that I had my eyes on, obviously, because of the whole tadpole move in with Rix Ronde and Burrito B being the 2 players that we still have criticized left, right, and center. And unfortunately, I didn't get much of a chance to watch Method over the past couple of weeks. So I was wanting to know, have you seen any of their matches so far?
Yes, and it's a weird one because Method have had a bit of a luxury so far this season, right? So they've only gone up against the weaker teams. They took down Frio, Echo Zulu, taken down RCD 3-1, and took down Underwater Squad 3-1. That was actually a fairly good game, and I'd say go have a look at it. That had a 8-minute overtime. That was the one game that Underwater Squad took. But one crucial loss to me was against Baguette Squad. They got 3-0. Don't get me wrong, very close, 1-goal differential games. But for me, for Method, that was a must win because right now they have got the harder teams, so it's a bit of they're 3-1, they're third currently in league play, but they have got the easy teams out of the way and now it just gets worse for them. That trust still seems a little bit shaky. The problems with Burrito B and Rix Ronde are still there, but they don't seem to have that same problem they had with Ocelon, you remember, where they didn't trust Ocelon. They trust Tadpole, but still they have that problem with each other.
Well, for context, the Method team still have to take on AS Monaco, Flomp and Discombobulators in the next 2 weeks. So, yeah, the hard teams are certainly still up for these boys. There is a lot of work that needs to be done in order to try and turn it around for them.
And I see him losing all three of those.
Yeah, I could see that happening as well. I think they've got a chance against Vertex. ALG might be a little bit tougher, but I think they've got that one down pat. So I think they might just scrape by if the numbers sort of line up in terms of the game differentials. But yeah, no, I could see them losing to all three of ASM, FLR, and Discombobulators. Again, based off previous performance. Again, I do want to ask about the Burrito B and Rix Ronde duo though, because I haven't seen much of this team. I'm definitely going to be watching them this week because I kind of need to, because I want to see if the duo has repaired itself. Do you think that they've fixed the situation?
Nope. One of them's going at the end of the season. Or if they don't, what on earth are Method doing not stepping in? They need to get someone in that is either a coach or a manager that knows Rocket League, because at the moment it seems like that's not a thing. It's just completely down to the players to decide, and I imagine that'd be Rix as the captain to decide it. I'd say they need to get someone in and just, or if not, they let Tadpole take charge on it essentially, because
honestly,
he's the most level-headed lad.
Yeah, and that might not even be a bad idea because he captained Triple Trouble all the way to the RLCS, so why the hell not at this stage? Depends on how much faith Method put into him and his projects, so, or whether they just want to stick with Rix Ronde. And again, with rumours floating over that Method's, the team's place within the organisation is still up for jeopardy, depending on how this season goes. If they can't sort that shit out, then they've got... Go on.
Is the things we saw about Gfinity, the Elite Series. We didn't include that shit.
I completely forgot that story. Fucking hell, man. This is what happens when I throw together the show last second.
It's not necessarily news. It's like, Gfinity has been confirmed as dormant, not cancelled, not shut down. It's
basically
a case where...
the Gfinity, what's the word?
Camera?
Is your camera gone? Okay, there it is.
No, it's back.
No, basically the Gfinity sort of investor report basically said that the Elite Series isn't necessarily cancelled or dead. It's sort of going back for a refurbish, and when all stakeholders are happy, they'll put it back out again. Whether that'll be in the next year or not, we don't know. I kind of forgot this piece of news, but it was sort of a bit of an important one for the EUC, and so I think we'll bring it up right now. Method might be in the running to sort of take another spot back in that, because I think they still support the FGC and FIFA teams. Yep. So there's still a chance that they'll be able to sneak their way back in, which might help Method, assuming this whole thing comes together in time. But we don't know if that's going to happen. Again, we haven't been given a time frame on the Elite Series stuff, but my understanding as well is that the jobs themselves rest on the results of this season. If Method can stay in, or they get promoted, then I think we'll be seeing the team re-sign for another season after the fact. Otherwise, though, I don't think so. And again, if that duo is not sorted. If that duo is not sorted, then we got problems still. Again, it's the same thing we talk about every week, but it really is the true core issue right now of Method.
Yeah, for me, it would come down to the actual want for that, because Method, like we were questioning with stuff like Nordvind, why do you still have a roster full time? That is just bewildering. So who knows? It could just be one after this. If they drop out, they drop them. If they stay in RLRS, who knows? They'll see what happens, and hopefully Gfinity stuff happens, and it makes it actually warranted to keep a hold of them.
Let's move on and talk about Result, because this is a team that we rated sort of highly, but I think we rated most of the teams ahead of them. You know, I think we said they have the potential to do damage and do some really good work. But right now they are, again, the back of the pack for the top 4.
But this is, again, where we thought they would be, this 3rd, 4th spot, where they'll do damage, but they're not going to top the group.
Well, I mean, the thing is for Result, you know, they still got a few big names to go. They still got to face ASM. They still got to face Discombobulators. They've already beaten out RCD, Underwater Squad, and the ARG side, which could be expected depending on how you see things, especially with ARG's sort of standing. They lost to Vertex, interestingly enough, which is sort of like a bit of a what the fuck.
Yikes.
Yeah, I think that was actually, when was that one?
That was the silent match. I say silent match. The single ones that are done.
The pre-recorded,
Yeah, the pre-recorded ones by Rival. And that was just awkward AF. Like, I don't even want to cover that. Horrid.
Was it a bit of a weird sort of like Result moment?
Yeah, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. To the point, Vertex went in the last 2 games, if I remember right, 5-2 and 5-3. The first match was a 3-2 in overtime, 2 Result. But it was just like what the shit is going on? Why are you giving this to Vertex? It was like Vertex were allowed to play okay. It should never happened.
Well, going back to Result again, like I do believe that we had them sort of we had some questions about whether or not Though and Noli can perform, you know, because we talked about you know, Though's position previously as part of the Dutch Bim Bam side, and previously MCOM prior to that, and we said that team was the other Dutch team that could do some damage alongside the likes of Ekazulu. We also talked about Noli being a part of the Zeno Moon side and how they sort of had their impact, but ever since they had that splash in the DreamHack qualifiers, they haven't really done a whole lot since, and we question whether the talents on these 2 players were really there. And for me, obviously, again, this is another team that I wanted to watch but I haven't had the chance to. Do you think Result, those 2 players in particular, have that have the skills that they've shown in the past still?
Yeah. Though is incredibly, like, I'm going to say he's consistent. Don't worry about him at all, Jay. Nolly is the one which, yes, you do have to worry about. The same with Gods. But both Nolly and Gods can play that attacking role and they work with each other very well. So essentially, it's the old Bricks mentality, the old method mentality of you put one player in the middle who's consistent and then just rotate around him. Let him be the setter up. Let him be the initiator, and then just whoever's feeling it on the day, get aggressive. And Nolly, like we said, I still see him as one of the, if not the best player in RLRS at the moment.
Well, for Result's future, obviously, they still have some pretty staunch sort of opponents ahead of them. So, like, talking about the next week's matches for them, they've got to face Discombobulators. Echo Zulu is the other team they have to face on the B stream. But for the Discombobulator side, that's going to be a fucking tough task. Do we think that they've got what it takes?
No. Discombobulators know how to handle really aggressive teams, and they're just too damn smart. They'll come up with the most horrible slow play, and Result will just be awkward to it. The only problem.
Now, let's move on and talk about the middle of the table boys, Baguette Squad and ARG. We talked a little bit about the ARG guys at the moment and how they stand again, because they haven't been competing, because they've become complacent. Obviously, they've lost their particular spark and they've lost their magic. I'm not sure if you can say the same thing about Baguette Squad, because they haven't been competing in the French scene in the past few months.
Didn't they just do something? Let me go have a look.
Yeah, I said they have been competing.
Oh, they have been. Oh, I thought you said they. You can't say the same. They haven't been competing. Go on.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. But yeah, no, they've been competing obviously in the last few months, so they've kind of held their own. But they're still within the fifth, sixth sort of middle of the table of the region. So, you know, I guess I kind of back to what I was saying during the play-ins about the Baguette Squad, and that I think that they can possibly make a run in this season, but only go so far as to either stay in or drop out. And the question all kind of rested in on whether or not Rizhor was a good pickup for them. And again, I really want to. I feel bad for saying this. I feel like such a fucking casual for saying, "Oh, I really want to watch this team in the RLRS." But do we think that he was? Do we think that Yukis was a good pickup, or has he proven himself to be a good player within the context of this roster?
Yukis is solid enough. So,
is he like an Astral moving into Dignitas situation, or more of a Greasy moving into Complexity situation? Like between those 2 points, where do we stand?
Greasy moving into Complexity, he is replaceable. He does the job, but he's not arguably. This team as Baguette Squad aren't making RLCS. And Swooping is good enough. Ritual Wiz. Yukis is an RLRS player at the moment, and I say Swooping and Ritual are both capable. They'd be both capable to get to the playoff tournaments, but the level at the moment they wouldn't make it to RLCS. It is just that case of Yukis is probably, and it's so harsh to fucking say, but the hindrance to the side. But even if they had, like an Astral in there, I don't see this squad making it through to RLCS. They'd just be a top of RLRS,
Yeah, I can see where that's coming from. Again, he was the linchpin point when we were talking about whether or not they could actually be able to do this. For the Baguette Squad, obviously, you compare to how they stood in the last season of the RLCS, and obviously they couldn't make it in for a couple of games. Maybe there's a good chance they might actually be in the exact same situation this season based off of that factor. But there's still a few weeks to go, and obviously in the next week they will be facing up against ARG on the second stream. I think that's their only fixture for this week as well. So still plenty of chances to recover. We'll find out whether they can do that later on down the road. But for now, that's going to conclude it for our RLRS proceedings. Let's talk about the RLCS, because as you may know, there was some results going down. And again, we're going to kind of go broad strokes in terms of the results, because again, I haven't been able to get all the screenshots for them, but you can sort of see the tables right now for round 2 or week 2. I don't know why. In fucking Wikipedia, it says round 2 on the heading, and on the actual table, it says week 2. So it's just like, okay, great, awesome. But the matches themselves were mousesports going 3-2 on a reverse sweep against FC Barcelona. Reciprocity beating up TSM at 3-1. Reno Vitality beating Veloce at 3-1. Dignitas beating out Complexity at 3-2. And FCB sweeping TSM out in round 2 to close out that particular day. Then in round 3, it was Veloce taking on Reciprocity, a back and forth affair that ended up in a 3-2 scoreline. Dignitas beating FCB pretty dominantly once again. Mousesports reverse sweeping once again Reno Vitality. They're like the polar opposite of what PSG used to be, and how they were the team that always got reverse swept. Mousesports are always the team that do the reverse sweeping.
It's
kind
classic
of funny.
flip side, dude. Come on.
But TSM beat Cole in the next matchup at 3-2. Dignitas lost to Reciprocity at 3-0, and FCB managed to beat Reno Vitality at 3-0 all the same. Very confusing results. I think Reno Vitality had a bit of an off week this week, but we'll get into more details about that in a moment's time. Let's talk about our standings first, though. And again, the top 2 right now are Reciprocity and Veloce, both at 3-1, separated by 3 games difference between them. Mousesports and Reno Vitality pulling the 3rd and 4th positions, with Mousesports having a series above Reno Vitality in the loss bonus. Dignitas and TSM are tied up with Vitality at 2-2 with -1 and -3 on their game difference respectively. And in the relegation zone right now, it's FC Barcelona also at 2-3, and Complexity at last with 0 and 4 on the series. It's going to be a yikes from me, dog. Let's start talking with Reciprocity. We kind of went into this season with a few questions about whether or not they'll be able to hold up the form that they had during the Valencia LAN, during the Beyond the Summit LAN. And they are a pretty good LAN team, as they've proven right now. They possibly might be another contender again to try and hold on to the best in the world spot.
Yeah, essentially, this is a team that is super good at the moment. The only problem they've got is Veloce, who somehow, Jay, have come out into the season when everyone was like, oh, this is going to be the team that comes 8th, like no doubt about it, and they've suddenly just gone through, what's the gif of the bloke going through like the back garden barbecue party and just slapping everyone aside as he goes through
the whole
yeah, that's it. That's essentially Veloce this season, and no one expected it. Like he wasn't even invited to that party, and he's just going through and slapping them about. And right now, I fucking love it so much because this story is so good. And it sort of at the same time means like this is the team that shouldn't be there, you know, because it was all down to that triple trouble drama. Veloce should not be here, but they're making it so they definitely are of that level to be there and slapping down these other teams. Their only loss coming out to Renault Vitality, to which, like we said earlier, going into week 2, was the expected result. The week 1, everyone looked at it and went, damn, they've done well. Going into week 2, okay, that's fair enough. Going into week 3, taking down Reciprocity? Boys, well done. Very well done.
I mean, with Reciprocity themselves, obviously, like, you know, this was going to be a tough match at the end of the day. Like, you know, I think that a lot of people had their eyes on this one. I was like, okay, well, Veloce, they've been through the motions. They've beaten Complexity. They've beaten Dignitas. They're sort of like back of the pack, middle of the road teams. Okay, so they've had a couple of good victories and they lost to Renault Vitality. It's like, okay, well, maybe they are about that middle of the road level, or maybe they are still going to be relegated into next season. So coming into this one with the explosive start that Veloce had, a lot of people were just like, okay, let's see what you can do. Let's see what you can really do. And they really proved that they can do. Like, I absolutely loved Veloce's pressure style. Like, you know, they were always up in the Reciprocity half. The only thing that gave Reciprocity the edge in certain attacks was the fact that they found sort of the overcommitment and were able to adjust to those really well. Obviously, with Sure Set still being really good mechanically. Not a career best, I don't want to say, but certainly really good mechanically.
Slumped a little bit.
No, here's the thing, right? It's the difference between, you know, Sure Set, who popped the fuck off at DreamHack, and the Sure Set that we were used to be seeing, you know, back when he was sort of like at his sort of average level.
It's last season, so it's 90% Sure Set, which is still a top team RLCS player. It's just not a, like, you know, you see us from like players like, let's just throw out TSM with Alpha. You remember back in week 1 with the Alpha carry, you know, it's that same aspect, but Sure Set is different in the fact that he is just able to be enabled by his team, so his teammates are still so important. The difference you'll see is when Reciprocity are looking weaker is when Sure Set is looking weaker, and then Fruity has to step up. So that essentially means the defense weakens and then the attack is, I want to say 50-50 if it's going to work or not, because essentially it requires, like, it's way too much focus on trying to set, like, over commitments, essentially, because they're trying to put too many players down into attack, which leaves them open in the back. So Reciprocity, like, that 3-2 game, and that's Reciprocity when they were weakened for me. I think we've got world champions coming up, and for me, that's scary purely because, like, generally if a team does well in league play, they don't do well at LAN, but who knows? Last season, man, with Vitality coming through.
I will say that obviously last season is something to take into account, considering how terrible Vitality looked on the first day of that particular World Championship. But again, Reciprocity right now, like, we had them as top contenders coming into this tournament, and they've certainly proven themselves this season, so I expect nothing less. Veloce, on the other hand, you mentioned it a moment ago of how well they've been doing. Like, this is a really big result for them here in week 3. Like, you know, obviously the people were taking a look at it. They were in that first week, and it was like, okay, they've got that 2-0 victory. That's pretty fucking, you know, it's a hell of a start. That's like a, you know, as you mentioned, the big dick sort of slapping people around style coming in from Veloce. And we might be looking at another FCB or Triple Trouble. You know, how we saw them coming, like, you know, come forward from their promotion. Yeah, I could see them being another TT. Hopefully with the less of the, you know, massive collapse towards the end of it, but I digress. You know, with Veloce, again, being promoted out of the rival series, coming in this season, and again, the key thing to remember as well is the fact that this is a team that came through by default, because obviously the TT drama made the whole team collapse. And I think the Veloce right now, this is a great point to prove what you're talking about previously with the whole auto-promotion thing. Because Veloce, in any other circumstance, if TT didn't disband, if mousesports didn't decide to bite the bullet, then we wouldn't be seeing Veloce in this season right now. If TT decided to stay together, then we'd be in a very different situation, and Veloce would not have the chance to prove themselves against the best teams in the world, which again goes back to my point of how I really want to see an auto promotion, because Veloce had the perfect season last season, and now their hard work of proving it in the RLRS, going into the RLCS and doing the job here on the server, like, it's a true testament to what I think could be accomplished with an auto promotion system.
Which, again, we were hoping for, but it doesn't seem like, from what I've heard, that that's going to be a thing for the end of the season. But let's keep this on Veloce for now. Like, this is going to be a team which, like, I love the org. Like, as orgs go, Jay, this is fantastic.
I will tell you right now, any organization that wants to pick up a World Championship Rocket League team and then immediately go back and fucking and then immediately go back and fucking what's it? And then immediately go back and pick up a fucking UKCS team. Like, you got a lot of respect in my eyes, okay? That's what Veloce did. Veloce have this potentially world-beating Rocket League team, and they still managed to pick up a fucking CS team for Epic Land, which is pretty fucking baller. Well, I won't lie. It's not going to work, unfortunately, but the fact that you've gone ahead and done that is actually, like, massive respect from me, so, you know.
No, Veloce are smart. They like building teams. And across the board, what they're doing is incredible. This is... Like, Veloce is the first esports team that's also, like, in sim racing that's actually going into real racing as, a team for that, which is really cool. But for me, my problem is going to be the players, because I can already tell there could be drama coming next season with maybe, like, a transfer or something going on here. And that's going to be weird, but for now, lads, just go as fucking far as you can, because I so badly want it. It's the such a scene, and for me, it's everything I want from this team.
You want to repeat that last 10 seconds because you lagged out there, Bacon.
Did I lag out? Rip.
Yeah.
Basically, I want this team to go so super far, because you got to think these players are sort of all, in a way, outcasts, Jay. You got Freaky, the outcast of Vitality. You've got Casio, the outcast of Triple Trouble there. And then Flame, who's been there, don't get me wrong, from the start with Secret and all of that. But you would have thought probably like a season or two ago that he would have been thrown out. So here, I'm loving it. It is underdog upon underdog, you know?
Absolutely. So let's move on and talk about mousesports. Or as I'm going to call them from here going out, monster sports, because fucking hell, like, what the hell is this shit? Like, this is an absolutely ridiculous form from mouse sports.
I thought you were going to, like, say about how no one on the RLCS stream can actually say mouse sports for some reason. It's mouse
esports. I'm gonna that is wholeheartedly Turtle's fault, and anyone who says mouse sports is mouse esports. Like, you guys need to fucking learn your esports history.
Just
it's
go
always
mouse.
Go mouse or mouse sports. Okay, that is like esports history. They've been around for fucking decades. Okay, right? They're one of the OGs. Okay, mouse sports are amazing, but don't say mouse esports. Like mouse sweeps, mouse reverse sweeps is actually what I was going to talk about, because they lost the reverse sweep to TSM in their first week. Obviously, we talked about that being a bit of a shit show with Alpha Carry being the main thing. We kind of suspected that as like a bit of a blip on the radar for mouse sports, and it kind of has been a point, because you take a look at their results and holy shit, like, there's a reason why I'm calling them monster sports, because they might lose the first 2 games of each series, but they always reverse sweep. They reverse sweep FCB, they reverse sweep Reno Vitality, and some of these scores are ridiculous. Their first game victory against FCB was a 5-0. 5-0, and then 4-3 at the end of the series. Then against Reno Vitality, 3-1, 6-1, and 2-1. Like, it seems like just something turns on, and somehow, like, Speed a lot and Cooks just decide, that fuck it, now we're actually going to start playing for serious now. Like, mouse sports have got a ridiculous amount of firepower, and it seems like they just can't. I don't know. I don't understand why they just can't switch it on during the initial part of the series. Like, we've talked about using game ones as burner games to sort of get a feel for how the opponent is playing, but with mouse sports, like, they're cutting it a little bit too close for my liking.
Well, like I said, it's just old flip side mentality, Jay. Yes. It still carries across. But for me, the one thing I fucking absolutely love is that you can hear that, because Mouse themselves are putting out, like, the team comms audio with the gameplay onto YouTube, putting it up on their Twitter if you ever see it as well, and literally showing a reverse sweep, and you can see the guys are disheartened, but they just go, let's fucking do this. We still got this. And they go do it. It is such good fucking content. So definitely make sure to go have a listen to that if you haven't.
I've only listened to the first little bit of the latest one with the Reno Vitality series. I want to go see back the ones. I think they put out one for FCB as well.
Yeah, they did.
I need to.
Fantastic. That's good. That one.
I need to go back and have a look see at it. I didn't get a chance to watch the full Reno Vitality one, so I want to jump in and take a look at that later. But in terms of the actual playstyle of mouse sports, how far do we think they can get by with this? Because for me, like, it's something we've criticized with other teams in the past. We've talked about how, like, especially when you take a look at some of the more coordinated sides like Reno Vitality, they could have easily taken that third game if they were ready for the insane turnaround that mouse sports were going to bring up. And I'm not sure that it can go really you know, I don't think you can go as far as to be like a world championship winning team. They've got the potential. They certainly have the talent to do so.
Yes.
But with the form like this, if you're going to have to reverse sweep every single series, like that's not a style that can last forever, you know?
And they won't reverse sweep every series, you know that. Like, it just means they've got the mentality to do it. For me, Mouse, they just need to get that first goal. They need to start getting things going, and they've got to, like, I don't know if they've got a coach at the moment, because of course Simon is moved in with the AS Monaco lads. He stayed over with that, and Flipside didn't by the end of it. I just don't know where this oh, they've got Lefemir. That's fucking it, I remember. So hopefully that's improving it. Jesus, I can't believe I forgot Lefemir as on Mouse. But essentially for me right now, it comes down to mentality, because Mouse, I could see taking Worlds with this team at the moment. Like, you got to think, back from the start when it formed, I did not believe in a lot on this roster, but it has worked. And again, the mentality that he provides in-game is so good. You can hear it from the comms, definitely. That's why I say go listen to that. And this is a team that is enjoying themselves. And as you know, in Rocket League, like literally playing for fun and enjoying yourself on the pitch, not taking it too serious, does actually win in the end, because it just keeps you flowing a lot better. You don't make as many mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have to disagree on the point that I think they can win Worlds. Like, you know, again,
They could.
They've got the talent
Mouse
there.
will make top 4 at Worlds, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
now.
no, again, they've got the talent there. They've got the firepower there. I don't think they have the style, though. Again, it's the problem with these reverse sweeps. If they were taking confidence series like 3-1s against Vitality, fine. If they were taking 3-2s at a back and forth series, okay, I can see that argument. But it's the fact they have to take 2 games to get warmed up and get into the server before they actually start performing. It's like, you know, it's monster performance. But again, if you can recognize how to shut down that.
Reverse sweep next week. They'll go like 3-1 and 3-2, but win without reverse sweeps against Cole and Dig.
Dig, I don't know, man. We'll have to see about Dig. With Cole, I can certainly see them doing that.
Dig
because
are shitters at the moment. It's
Dig, really? I was going to say Cole, actually. Like, Dig, I think, are
Cole
sitting about...
worse, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to transition into Cole, actually. But since you're on the topic of Dignitas, I think they're about where they should be, to be honest. They're middle of the table, 2-2. You know, they're not the Dignitas of old, but they're still fitting in pretty nice and snug. I think that they've got another season on their belt to stay in the RLCS before they actually start making big boy moves to try and get a chance back at the championship, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Dig should be finishing up around about that. I'm going to say 5th, 6th spot this season. I don't see them getting to Worlds, but who knows? They could do a little sneak-in run with how the format is now. But like you said, Dig, I said they're shitters right now, but that is because like the comparison to what they should be. Astral should have been a big play move coming on in, and it just was not for Dig. It's understandable. Their win against Cole was actually pretty damn tight, and that scares me a little bit for them. But they did good against Barca, who are pretty dysfunctional, but at the same time, that was close. And the 3-0 loss to Reciprocity was fairly close. That's expected, but it was a very close one with an overtime. For me, just going forward, the problem is they have to scrape a win. And I don't like that sort of having to scrape a win doesn't work against Mouse. When they come up against Vitality, it ain't gonna work. Hopefully they can take down Dig, and that should be the glimmer of hope to put them with 3 wins, which we know from RLCS in the past. 3 wins is always your safe. And that should be it. For me, you're looking at probably either TSM or Barca to join Complexity as a bottom 2 team.
Yes, and we'll come on to that in a moment. For first thing, though, I want to talk about Vitality because they're roughly holding the middle of the table. They certainly have teetered off since we saw them win the World Championship. You know, we talked a lot about how they looked really good during that World Championship, but they started defensive problems. Well, now they've started to focus on the defensive, and they've left the offensive in a very sort of timid sort of way. You know, we haven't seen the French connection work out as well as it did before. We haven't seen Scrub Killer be as amazing in the offense as we used to see him, but that's fine because Scrub's a generally defensive player anyway. So the fact that they're able to do that is a pretty all right fashion. But you know, with the way that mousesports were playing in their round 3 matchup that we saw this past week, the defensive got baited a lot from Vitality.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they're putting more emphasis on that defense, it still feels like there's some holes that they need to plug. And with the way that mousesports took that offensive style, it shows to me that Renault Vitality are going to struggle against some of the more offensive-based teams. You know, we saw them do that against FC Barcelona, for example, this week, where they lost 0-3, and against the North American style, the South American style, where that's very firepower-based. That's very sort of striking elements, sort of very striking elements, sort of.
It's
basis.
not as clean and accurate though, which is going to be their only glimmer of hope, I'll say.
Yeah, I will say that, but like, you know, considering again with the more striking based teams in the EU side of things, like they're going to struggle a lot. And again, we've seen that against Mouz where they got reverse swept. We saw that against FCB where they got clean swept. Next week they've got the likes of Reciprocity, which is just going to be like, Lord fucking help you guys, because you know, Renault Vitality, they're not like tragic levels of not good, but they certainly have like, you know, teetered off compared to last season.
Yeah, they definitely have. For me at the moment, they sort of got a little bit complacent and they're now quite predictable. That's why that you were saying about the defense getting baited there. For me, they need to innovate something new, and that will be probably thrown on in at a later stage, but essentially they need to come up with a new play. And originally that came down to defensive passing plays, which is what got them league play last season. When it got to Worlds, it was just everyone just firing on all cylinders on the day, you know? But now you can't just expect on the day performance. They've got to come up with a new, innovative sort of way to play. And we have to say, Renault Vitality, if you were to look at a team for it, it'll probably be that team, you know? Out of any team on the list.
Yeah, possibly. I'd say I'd agree on that particular respect. But again, they're not so bad as to be tragic bad. Actually, we're going to move on to the teams that do look pretty tragic at the moment. From top to bottom of the bottom three, we'll start with TSM, who are only here because they've won 2 series and only lost 2 compared to FCB, who have won 2 and lost 3. Obviously, their wins being against mousesports and against Complexity this week as well. You ever heard of a thing called Alpha Carry, Bacon? Like,
I have seen the Alpha Carry, and it's something to behold. But the contrast to that is that Alpha should not need to carry fucking Remco and Metzer, should he?
Yes.
Christ
I'm not going to debate this at all. Like, TSM look fucking tragic. They look uncoordinated. They rely so much on Alpha doing all the work. And with a team like they have on that TSM camp, like as you mentioned, Metzenaris and Remco, you know, like those are some pretty good players. Metzenaris was wrongfully kicked out of his team in Complexity way back when. And obviously we've seen fucking Remco take championships with fucking Northern Gaming way back in the day. You know, we've seen him go first place at the Weedem girls side in E-League as well. You know, these are like world championship caliber sort of players. And even Metzenaris was part of that Weedem girls side that won at E-League, and he went so far as the season 6 third place position, season 5 finals as well as when he went to third place and everything. Like I believe season 4 with his second place finish with Method as well. You know, these are some good players that they've got on their part, but for some reason Alpha is the only player that seems to be of any capability right now for TSM. The other guys are just being dead weight right now. And it was a case, case in point was there was a moment during the match that for the recent Cole versus TSM match where their first defensive play was a triple commit. They don't know what they're doing. It's so uncoordinated. It looks so terrible right now. Like I'm shocked again because you mentioned all those amazing accolades, and this team is currently in 6th place in the league.
Yeah, it's understandable how Ignite threw out his back and, got the injury and thrown from the team from it. For me, it just comes down to, like, they've had Jake in as a coach. It seems to, I don't know what he's doing with that side because it seems to do nothing. But for me, that would be largely down to Remco, probably with quite a large ego and not taking anything on board.
Oh, God. I've got to think about ego in a minute a little bit, but please carry on.
But it's just essentially there seems to be no coordination between this team. There needs to be someone just like next season, there needs to be another change up. And Alpha is the only thing that is solidly holding TSM together and giving them a chance not to be bottom 2 at the end of the season. But don't get me wrong, they're scraping that pretty damn close to Dig and Bastard for that spot. Yeah. But Jesus.
Yeah, like it's only a couple games, but honestly, like I think given time, given the last couple of weeks of league play, I can imagine that TSM will fall behind Dig and Vitality. Like, just again, I can't see a way in for this team.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, I can completely understand. I'll go on to it in. Yeah, I'll go on to it in the next part, but I can completely understand why Alpha wanted to leave Barca, but this should have not been what he left for, you know?
No, Alpha deserves so much better, man. Like, you could put him on a fucking Dignitas, or even a Vitality, or a mousesports, or any one of those teams within the top 4, top 5, and he would make them a World Championship winning team immediately. I think there's some teams that don't necessarily need that. But
I'd be interested to see Vitality with Fairy, K-Dop, and Alpha.
Yeah, no, I agree. I 100% agree. I would absolutely love to see a team like that. I hate to say that. Yeah, like, no hits on Scrub right now. But again, you put fucking Alpha into a team like that, or into a team like mousesports, and then they are riding the wave of just easy championship. Not even a contention right now. Like, I see it as the tragedy is Simple to me, you know. Like, and obviously, for those of you, again, Counter-Strike references, for those of you who don't know, Simple is the best player in the world in Counter-Strike. Right now, he's on a shit team, right? So he does all the carrying, and his team just is the dead weight behind him. They don't allow him to win the championships that really they should be winning. And I'm seeing the exact same thing at a TSM, where we have one great player, two subpar players. Again, no offense, but this is literally iGnite times 2. You know, like, you are not performing to the level that you should be performing at, and it's bringing TSM down. Not as much as it's bringing down FC Barcelona, though. Oh my god, this team.
Just, we knew it was going to be a yikes coming into the season. That's all we can say. Like, everyone saw this coming right on up. And I'm just going to send you a quick picture.
Oh, God.
Jay.
Get ready to pump this in the show, Craig.
I don't know if Craig's back.
He's back,
but
don't worry.
For the whole point is that on Bluey's Twitter, he's got captain and in-game leader for FCB Esports. Does Bluey know what an in-game leader is? Because this is such an uncoordinated team. Jesus.
That makes it even better. He's taking responsibility for his team being terrible. Like, that's at the very least, he's got the balls to admit it, because FC Barcelona looked atrocious. They have looked atrocious from the word go. Like, reciprocity, fair enough. You lost to them, but you're on the precipice of winning that matchup. You managed to sweep TSM, which is fair play in that respect. You managed to get rid of Vitality. But I will say the Dignitas series was among one of the worst series I've ever seen.
And Dick wasn't doing anything spectacular. That was just a shit show from both sides. Still
here's the thing. Here's the thing as well, right? I think there's a power dynamic or a power struggle right now in the FCB camp. Because I don't know if you noticed this, Bacon, but there were several points. Let me see if I can bring up my notes on this particular respect, because there was in game 3. I feel like there's a bit of an ego power dynamic going on, because there were 2 points in game 3 of the Dignitas versus FCB matchup where Ronicky received a pass from Bluey and he could have passed back to Devo to allow him to shoot. And if he had gone for that pass, there was a better chance to get the goal in compared to what Ronicky was going to go for. But instead of what Ronicky was doing was light touching the ball to try and get it in the back of the net with a defensive that was bolstered on the Dignitas side. They're trying for flashy players without involving all their teammates. And even Achieves called this out on stream. He called it. It was like, why have you done that? Like, you know, not Achieves, Wavepunk, excuse me. He said it in the play-by-play. He's like, no, he's not going to go past the Devo. He's going to go for the shot. He's going to fail. And I think there's some serious problems on the internal side for the
it's greed and ego.
For the FCB.
That is it.
Yeah, and that's the problem when you find 3 striking players. Okay, like, there's a reason why FCB or Savage struggles so much in the beginnings, because every single player is trying to step on their toes and try and be the player that gets the flashy plays and the flashy moments. The only player that didn't do that was Alpha. Yeah. Exactly, and look where Alpha is right now. One of the best players in the world, still on a terrible team. The question is, which one is more terrible, TSM or FC Barcelona? Who do you think is going to come out worse for wear in the grand scale of the season?
I don't want to say that. It's so harsh. I'm going to say Barca will come out worse for wear, but that's more of hope of like one day where Remco and Metzer actually pull their weight on that side and it actually works on out. Like, oh, this is a loaded question, Jay. I mean, I hate you so much. I know we saw Barca take down TSM, but I think the longevity of it, when you've got Barca's going to take down Veloce, which I can see Veloce taking, and then Barca's got a free win essentially by complexity at this point. I don't fucking know. I'm going to like sink into my chair and think. Because on that, TSM might drop it. Purely because Barca getting the free win on complexity. No, I don't want this. Yeah, TSM have got Dig,
here's the thing.
Veloce and Renault Vitality. TSM is bottom 2. Yikes.
Here's the thing, right? I can see an opportunity available for the for the TSM guys if the two other guys manage to step up and do some work.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, if they're working well together, then FC Barcelona will struggle because the firepower thing, having 3 players in, it's not working, right? We saw this happen with Savage, but they got their shit together and they managed to play as a team. Right now they're playing as 3 individuals trying to go for flashy plays. There is a little bit of teamwork between Bluey and Ronicky, which supports this thing I was hearing about the FCB camp being really faithful in that particular that particular thing. I know that we had rumors that Bluey was going to be on his way out of FC Barcelona at the end of the season, but now with the way that this is working out, with those 2 guys getting into a pack, they actually might switch the roles to Devo being out at the end of the season.
Yeah, it just comes down to which duo is like the best of friends, and yeah, it seems like Ronicky and Blue at the moment, so Devo will get demoted and probably retire. Yikes.
What can you do? What can you do? Although I will say though, I think that at the moment with the way things are working out right now, FC Barcelona probably have a better chance than TSM at the moment. I think that actually all in all, TSM, while they have that firepower in terms of a team, they look worse. For my
matchups, yeah, I was looking at and going, Barca should be able to then squeak that out.
But there is still one more team left that are worse than even those 2, and that is Complexity. I hate saying this. I really do. Like, Complexity had so much potential going into this season. We all took a look at it like, right, this is Flakes' time to shine. They performed so well in DreamHack, so well in qualifiers, so well in everything. But in the RLCS, they have looked timid beyond belief. So timid right now. Like, it's a polar opposite to the sheer aggression that was ticking names off a list in some of the best teams that have ever graced the game of Rocket League. And I just feel like that they've lost a touch. They've lost a certain touch to what they had before. In the TSM matchup, it felt like it was a case of carry versus carry. You know, who's going to carry better, Alpha or Flakes? And in this case, Alpha was obviously going to be the better man. But again, you look at the players on Complexity, Magnus and Greasy Meister being 2 very capable players of their own who've been to grand finals. I think they've won a couple championships in the case of Greasy Meister. Yeah, flip side, wasn't it? It was. I keep forgetting that for some reason. I don't know why. But you know, we've seen that come out of Complexity, and we've seen those kind of style plays. And Flakes was the guy that was the glue that kept those 2 together and kept the team working well. You know. But right now, that glue is not holding the team together. Magnus and Greasy aren't getting basic touches on the ball, and it's causing a lot of problems when it comes to Complexity's field dominance. And again, as a result, it looks timid. It looks like they aren't taking active roles in the game right now.
Yeah, one of those lads is going to get swapped out at the end of the season. You can see it. They need someone that can just be very assertive, and I think at the same time they probably need someone that is just wanting to take the commanding team leader role. So I don't know where that will come from, what's going to change on up. I personally, if not anything, would like to see maybe a change up where they get rid of, say, Greasy, and you see Alpha move across. He only lasted for like half season, but I doubt TSM want to give him up or something. Complexity won't be looking to pay the rates, you know. They'd be wanting to just stay up and all that jazz. But something needs to change up, and it's either you get him a player that is super strong in defense or you go for someone that can command, and even then, that's your third man. That's your guy who is more primarily a defender, which needs to be put into place.
Yeah, they don't have a third man right now on that complexity side, and it felt like they did at one point, but now it sort of has fallen to pieces, and as a result, they are the worst team in the league. They are 0-4 down. So far, they have lost to Veloce, which, knowing what we know now, is fair play. They've lost to Dignitas, which, you know, is also a pretty respectable side. They've also lost to Renault Vitality, and they lost to TSM earlier this week, which could have been their first victory, but they weren't able to do that much. And when the team is uncoordinated as TSM is right now, like, that's concerning. That's very, very concerning right now with the state of...
The thing is, they should be able to stay up in the promotion playoffs, Jay. Like, when you look against the RLRS teams,
I don't know, man.
They should be able to stay up. And
I don't know
then
about that, dude.
They'll probably swap on out for one of the teams from the RLRS. And I can see this team making the crucial mistake of going with 3 attacking players and doing something like Magnus Flakes. And let's just say, like, Nolly gets put onto it, or Nachital, or Monkey Moon, or something like that, where they just go, fuck it, 3 strikers. That seems to be the meta. You just go for out aggression, and that's not what I want to see, you know?
Again, I don't know, man. Like, I'm taking a look at the, like, I'm taking a look at how, for the promotion playoffs, obviously this roster's locked, so they have no choice but to play with these guys.
Yes.
You take a look at the current performance of AS Monaco, a team that have so much potential. Discombobulate is a team that have proven their potential, and it's like, these are the 2 top runners right now in the RLRS, and you take a look at those guys, there's a good chance they might promote automatically. If not, then they'll be facing up against Complexity, and if you see any of those 2 teams taking on Complexity in the forms that they're in right now, it would not surprise me to see Discombobulators or ASM.
Method, or
Flomrazon as well. Yeah, Flomrazon also has a decent shout of their own right. You know, even if we take a look at, like, the best case scenario of someone like Flomrazon and Method getting a chance to play in the promotion playoffs, like, there's a chance the Complexity could easily lose to that, and they'll be back in the rival series for another season. And it's like, considering what the organization have gone through to try and get them to this point, it's like, how much longer do you think that they can last at that stage, you know?
I don't know, and it's one of those ones, realistically, I could see Complexity, yeah. I know they, like, re-signed contracts, I think it was. Actually, no, their contract should be probably run out fairly soon. So I'd imagine they'd be up until the end this year, and then if they drop down to RLRS, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the org just goes, you've dropped down once before, we know you can come back up, but we've got to, like, we want a winning team. That's our image, you know. That is Complexity through and through. If they're not, you know, top of their region, they don't. That's not good enough for them. They would look to go elsewhere, and maybe, like, I could see Complexity staying within Rocket League, but they would switch over to one of those newly promoted teams if Complexity don't stay up.
Yeah, especially if a team like Discombobulators get in, that's an easy call pick up right there.
Yeah,
and it looks like that could be a much more likely situation if Complexity do relegate. But that's a story for the relegation phase. Right now, they have got a hell of a task to try and pull back whatever they have of this season. 2 match fixtures next week against mousesports and Reciprocity. The week after, they've got FC Barcelona. It's just like, you've got no way out. You've got no way out right now for Complexity. Like, they're going to have to find the magic that got them through the DreamHack qualifiers, or just die trying, essentially.
If they get 2 wins there, that's them back in with a chance, and it'll be them against FCB fighting it out to stay alive, but bloody hell, they have not made it easy on themselves.
No, they have not. And I think that all in all, this is probably... this just sucks, man. It just sucks to see the way that this has gone down. But I will quickly
post. One team had to be like it.
And we'll quickly post that in chat. Craig, if you can bring that screenshot up on screen, that would be fantastic right now. Because I want to talk about next week's matches. Obviously, we have another week of matches to go forward here for the RLCS. Again, as I mentioned, Complexity taking on mousesports to start off the stream. Veloce versus FC Barcelona. Complexity versus Reciprocity after that. Mousesports against Dignitas. TSM taking on Veloce and Renault Vitality versus Reciprocity. Which of these matches stand out to you in the RLCS plays?
It's got to be Renault Vitality versus Reciprocity. Come on, that's like El Clasico of Rocket League these days. The old Vitality versus like PSG at the time, battle of the French sides. It's the easy pick for me. If not that, it would have to be. I want to say Veloce going up against Barca purely because this is Barca's like they've got to take it now. And Veloce, if they win that, for me, they secure themselves. Like they're solid.
Yeah, for me, it's the Veloce and Reciprocity matches again because they've got some relatively weak sides to deal with, but Reciprocity will have a bit of a challenge with Renault Vitality. I think they should still be able to win it. But if those two matches go well for those respective sides, then that is basically them secured for at the very least top 4, at that stage. So yeah, they're looking pretty fucking baller right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that will work out for them. Again, we'll have to take a look at all those results next week on the show. Before we go, though, back into the RLRS, I want to talk about some of these matches. Flomp versus Discombobulators, the Ekazulu side taking on RCD Espanyol, Method versus Vertex, ASN taking on ARG, Method taking on AS Monaco once again, PSG versus ARG, Underwater Squad versus Vertex, Ekazulu versus Flomp and Underwater Squad versus Baguette Squad. What do you make of this?
Flomp Discombobulators is the tastiest treat you could ask for to start the
I'm glad
matchup.
you agree. I'm glad you agree.
And then Method versus ASM. Like, I hate that that's the silent one. Hopefully that should already be recorded if I'm correct. I don't know the result of it, and I'm not going to leak.
Don't spoil the result now until it goes broadcast. Don't be a dick to rival.
I don't know the result, so it's fine. But that I can't wait to see as well, because that is going to be some very momentous sort of like decision making vibes to it, because they're currently tied and only one of them can get the second spot alongside Discombobulators, because I'm calling that now. Disc will take top. I want it so bad.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to agree with you. Again, that Flomp Discombobulators match should be the most spiciest. I've had to go for a secondary pick. I don't know, actually.
I'm going to say Baguette Squad ARG as well. That, for the mid-table that's
a good point, actually, because that's the middle of the table sort of matchup. So those two teams will be fighting for superiority in 5th and 6th place. So ARG could potentially try and turn the result against Baguette Squad, especially if they get a 3-0. Or even a 3-1 at that stage. They might be able to overtake.
Get that win, they should stay up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a possibility. So yeah. So those are the two matches that we're going to highlight for round 4 of the RLRS and of course round 4 of the RLCS. All of that is kicking off tomorrow. If you're watching this live on Friday, the 25th is where the RLRS matches will begin, with the RLCS of course taking place on Sundays as it always does on the 27th. Hopefully, I should be able to catch it this time because, been busy the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you've been aware and all that shit. But some fun matches. And especially when we're closing out the last couple of weeks of the RLCS, I'm looking forward to what people have in store for us.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm looking forward to being able to catch the stuff on Sunday. Might be out Saturday, so I don't know how much of the B stream I'll be able to see, but I'll definitely be tuning in on Sunday.
We should be able to get the info of who's going to be on that B stream very soon indeed, so maybe we might be casting for that, but we'll find out later down the road. Until that point, though, we are going to sign off. That has been it for today here on RLAfterShock, another catch-up show, I guess you could say. That certainly has been the main sort of thing about this week. Obviously, we're missing last week as well. We'll try our best not to miss any future weeks. The schedule seems to have cleaned up a little bit.
Next week will be a bit hard, but we'll probably record something, I think, if it comes to it.
Oh yes, of course, because of Halloween. I believe that might actually be Thursday. We might do a little bit of a Halloween special. I'm not going to say specifically what we're going to do, but I will let you know. And we will, of course, if you want to keep up to date with everything, it's at RLRShock on Twitter. We'll put any announcements out, whether or not it'll be a pre-record, or whether or not it will be a basic live show, or whether or not we just won't bother. We'll never know. You'll see. But again, that's RLRShock on Twitter if you want to follow this social media stuff on Twitter. Join the Discord as well if you're not already part of it, !Discord in the Twitch chat, or it is in the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast. podcast, which of course you can find on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and all other major platforms of distribution. You can go to anchor.fm/RLAfterShock to find your favorite platform or request your favorite way to listen. Bacon, any final words before we head off for another week of RL Aftershock?
Not much, just that I'd like to post the roadmap for the rest of this evening for myself. It is to go make dinner, maybe watch some TV, and then go to bed. That is the Digital Bacon roadmap for the 24th of October, 2019.
Hey, man, you know what? At least you're not going to break those promises, right? You can make very little promises and it'll be fine. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you back here next week for even more of the Aftershock.